is going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lucas, and Mike. And we got a good one for you guys planned for today. We got Jeremy Reisman from Pride of Detroit joining the show, 8:15. We're gonna go
baby.
We're gonna go through some combine highlights. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's actual highlights, but guys that participated, guys that showed out. Actually, a lot of names that we talk about a lot on this show. We'll go through that. We got a ball nowhere breakdown in the second hour. We're going to go through some fan mock drafts. Just because Friday, I want to make sure we get these out of the way this week. Make sure we review fan mock drafts. Make sure we're consistent. We're going to do them today because, again, we'll be in Indy tomorrow, which will be a lot of fun. Boys, how we feeling tonight?
Beautiful. Feel great. Beautiful day. Got Jeremy Reisman on. I've never met Jeremy, so I'm excited to talk to him. And the draft. We're going, not the draft, the combine. We're going tomorrow.
Yeah, so about to say, I haven't met Jeremy either. I'm excited to hear what he has to say, and then I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be at the combine the next 2 days. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped, boys. Gonna have some good content coming out on socials too.
You know who's there, Lucas?
Who's that?
Your guy.
Your guy, Louis Riddick, baby.
He's got boots on the ground. He's in Indy.
No, he does.
Mm-hmm. So that's we
got to find him and Steve Smith. Him and Steve Smith are like the two guys I want to find at the combine.
They're probably out there. I know Louis Riddick. He was doing he was on ESPN. He was on First Take from Indy, from Lucas Oil Stadium. So maybe we can run into Louis Riddick. I think that would make your life and make all of our lives.
Louis, please, Louis. I'd be cracking him down.
Louis. I know people talking. Again, I want to give a shout out to the people that joined first. Of course, Anakin Skywalker was the first one in. We got Robin's Nest. Of course, we have Coach Walk, the man, the myth, the legend. We got Vincent Ellison. We got Ubaldo, another legend. Love the name, by the way. And we got Seth, Big Con 51, Chef, ETN, Bon J, Steve and David, man. Appreciate you guys for supporting us, tuning in tonight, man. We're a
lot of regulars, man. Shout out.
Yeah, a lot of regulars. I know people were talking about Brandon Fisk, too, who he had a hell of a day. He did. Hell of a day. I know
what did he run 40-wise? Like, well, I didn't see any of like I know about Braden Fisk, but I didn't see anything from his combine performance.
He ran a 4.78 at
big fella that can move.
Yeah, big fella can move.
Who'd we compare him to before? Greg Gaines from the Rams.
That's disrespectful. He's solid.
Gaines was a contributor to that Super Bowl run, but I think that, like, realistically, that's a good comp. Like, I think Fisk is a second, third round pick somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I saw earlier somebody said best interior defensive lineman in the draft, and that's a stretch.
Yeah,
Jerzon Newton from Illinois, and then you got Tavondre Sweat. There's a couple guys that like he's a dog. But there's a couple bigger dogs in that draft.
He definitely moved up draft boards today, though.
Oh,
he literally, I'm pretty sure he tested first in like every single category for a defensive lineman, interior. I'm pretty sure. I think every single thing that he did, he tested number one at his position. So he moved up quick today. He's a guy that benefited from doing this.
We got Detroit Supremacy. What up, though? Motor City Street Scene. He says, "What's good, Crunch Time? Best night show in the D." We appreciate you. Street Scene as well. We got JB Smooth.
JB.
Hey, the JB,
baby.
Yeah, JB, the heart and soul. JB Smooth. You got to say like long at the end. JB Smooth.
JB Smooth.
Lions Troll as well, man. Brandon Dubinsky. We appreciate you guys. Like I said, we have Jeremy Reisman joining in about 10 minutes to kind of go through some of what we saw from the combine. Anybody that stood out to him. Specifically, they had an article on Pride of Detroit, which you guys can go check out. Kind of updating a list of formal meetings the Detroit Lions had, which I do kind of want to put on the screen here, and we can go through it. This article was first started by the Jeremy Reisman, and I want to go through who they met with so far. These are formal meetings, and there's informal and formal. There's a difference. I don't feel like sitting and explaining it, but you get it. You get the base of it. Like formal meaning they have about 20 minutes of time to meet with these guys, and this is who they've met with so far. So we checked out a list yesterday. This is the updated list of everybody they've met with. So linebacker Aaron Casey, edge, like some of the guys we already kind of went through. I think we went through the four edges. Kool-Aid McKinstry on that list.
Ooh, and
Quinyon Mitchell, who I mentioned is a Dan Campbell guy that I know they're going to like him a lot. Sione Vaki.
You're really locking in those names, man.
Hey, crazy Samoan from Utah. That's I'm already sold.
And then Malik Mustafa, who's a safety out of Wake Forest. There's these names, man. It's like, hey, you could enter the NFL draft if you have a confusing ass name. That's what it feels like. But they met with two safeties. Yeah, you wouldn't meet with a safety if you didn't have an idea if you want to think about taking a safety. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I think to your point, like if you look at the names, like we haven't heard of Malik Mustafa or Sian Vaki coming in until right now. So I think this is what it's telling you is, to your guys' point, it kind of works hand in hand with both of our points. I think they need to add a safety for depth, and you guys think if they do it, it doesn't need to be a priority, so probably later round pick. So 4th, 5th, 6th round, I think safety is definitely on the table when you look at these meetings.
I think too, like they were gonna like that. Oh, this is trippy, Jeff.
Yeah, we're good.
I think they're gonna do their due diligence on some guys. Like they did say, like they're not gonna look at like filling holes in position. Like they're gonna it's gonna come down to like best player, like who fits best, like all of that. So like I think they're doing their due diligence with guys. Like they don't want to miss on us. Like if there's a dude, they're not gonna miss on him too. And if they need to move a guy, like there's just different things they can do with that. And I did see as well, like with these formal interviews, I know Jeremy tweeted out as well, like this is all like all of this list is kind of on and off because like the only way I think he said that you can see whether a player meets with them is the player has to kind of put it out there. So there might be guys that they've met with that have not announced it, and you just don't know. Like there might be guys that we talk about, we don't see out like Devondre Sweat or something, and they met with him, but he just didn't announce it, so they just can't. They don't know. So like there's just certain things like that happen too.
It's funny because at the combine too, your boy Booner, Devondre Sweat, 366 pounds,
dude, and dog. He's a dog,
big man, and he ran a
40.
He ran a 5.27.
Big man was moving.
He was moving, and it looked pretty fluid. Robert Griffin III put out that his adjusted 40 time and his height and weight is like a 180 pound DB running a 4.26.
I don't.
He's an absolute dog.
I don't know what that means, though.
Yeah,
that means exactly what he said it means. He ran. It's because if he was 180 pounds, you adjust it. That man is a dog. I don't know what else to say.
I get it, but you got it. In my opinion,
he's a specimen of a human being. He's a specimen of a human being.
Spot on, Booner.
But
the thing is the reason why I don't think this man is a first round pick and like a bona fide by like consensus is because he is 366 pounds, moving at a 5.27. Like again, that's great big, but he's got it. I think if he wants to move up into that first round, and I think he still could be a first round pick, but if he wants to really take that next step, he's got to go on the Lee McNeil train real quick and just kind of slim up real quick. He still loses 30, 40 pounds. He's 330 pounds.
I don't want him at 330. I want him at 360, all muscle, all
Booner, but you want that.
I want the real Devondre Sweat.
But you want him on the field consistently, right?
Yeah, he'll do that at 360.
He's got to lose some LBs. He's got to lose some LBs.
What does Dan Campbell say? Right? Stay in shape. Stay in shape.
It looked like he was in shape today running that.
Well, we have the scores.
Don't care about these scores.
Hey, he bombed his.
A lot of people bomb these scores. Doesn't mean
actually, Dan,
and they end up being great football players.
Well, who they took last year in the first round? Jack Campbell had one of the best RAS scores. So they do value
scores.
Athletic, yes, relative athletic score. But I think it says something. He was like ranked 900 out of like 1,200 D tackles, like in terms of his like athleticism. Like, but again, he takes up a lot of space. But 366 pounds, like, that's
stuff. When I saw this, I was like, okay,
that's insane.
But you know what? Maybe he drops because of this, and you can get him even later.
He will. He absolutely will drop. Unless he goes out there.
You get him later.
I doubt there hasn't been any pro days yet, has there? I don't recall.
Not yet.
Unless he goes out there and kills Texas's pro day, he's definitely a second round pick right now.
Yeah,
drops.
I mean, he's 6'4", but like he's weighed in. He was 362 on ESPN at Texas. So I don't know if he gained it. He's a little heavier now. I don't know. I don't know the backstory. Maybe the Lions will consider him. I doubt it, considering those scores. But that's your guy, Booner. He's still a good football player. So
can I bring a new guy up that I saw today? I know we're talking the combine now. Can I just bring up a new guy that I think I might be turning the table on a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
Out of Penn State, Chop Robinson. I think as a show we've been a little down on him a little bit. He put out he showed out today, and then when I saw that, I went back and started watching some of the and I didn't watch like film, like I already saw some of his film. I went and watched some of the broadcasts today talking about him. And Lucas's guy, Louis Riddick, came out and he said, hey, if he runs about a 4.39, similar to what Michael Parsons runs, you could start. And he says a lot of people, and I'm not going to compare him to Michael Parsons, and I don't think Louis Riddick was saying he's going to be Michael Parsons, but he was saying like that's a name that people put him next to, saying this is kind of how he plays, is like a Michael Parsons. And I was off of him. And as hearing Louis Riddick talk about him, seeing him, I think he was the best edge rusher today that performed at every single, he kind of did what Fisk did. Like he went out there and he was like first in every single category. And then people started like, hey, this guy could actually be a problem. He didn't have a ton of sacks, but like he's a dog. And to hear Louis Riddick talk about him and say, hey, he's kind of got that Michael Parsons mold. I don't like, and I saw Ubaldo there put Chop is going between 18 and 24. That's a guy that might have just moved up a lot because of his NFL combine today. So I kind of fell for him. If he's there at 29, I think I might be a Chop Robinson guy. And before I was not.
And it's funny, Russ. And I don't know if I know you've been digging into some prospects though, because I'd like to hear your thoughts on Chop, because I Russell Brown, he talked about it. I trust him and Scott. I don't know how Scott feels. We didn't ask him about Chop, but I know Russ has been going on a tangent about Chop, like kind of talking ish to him on Twitter too. Just because Russ dove into the film and he's not a great run defender. So he's terrible actually against the run.
This is terrible. And I could be wrong. And I could very well be wrong. But I think this is one of those guys where you knew going into the combine he was going to have a really good combine. And then he had a really good combine, and I don't know why everybody's surprised about this. Not saying that he was not impressive. That's not what I'm saying. He put impressive times, but you expected that. Chop Robinson had, I believe, like 2 or 3 sacks this year. Then you go into the fact that, okay, now if you're a defensive end in the NFL and you want to be a first-round pick, you got to stop the run. So if you're not putting out sack production, you're not putting up run-stopping production, but you can test good in the combine, again, I could be wrong, but I do not care. I think that's one of those players where at best he's a gimmick defensive end, and I think you can get that in free agency, or you can see what you have in James Houston with that value.
Is this the first time Lucas is disagreeing with Louis Riddick? Going against Louis Riddick?
CJ Stroud.
All right.
But I think
I heard Louis Riddick breaking him down today. I was like, okay, he might have gotten me a little bit.
I could be wrong.
Well, hey, that's your guy. All right, like that's your guy, Louis Riddick. So hey, it's up to you. I trust Russ. I haven't dove into a ton of Chop Robinson. I've caught a couple of Penn State games, especially the Michigan versus Penn State game. It's not like Chop Robinson to me like jumped off the page. I know people who follow Penn State football and follow draft coverage would probably know him better than me. I just rely on guys like Russ, and he's not a huge fan. But I do agree with you, Booner.
Go watch some film, and then what he said today. Louis Riddick had nothing but good things to say about him today. It's just an interesting thought. Throw him in your head a little bit. Think about it.
Well, I got somebody that I don't really need to think much about when it comes to his expertise on the Detroit Lions, and that's Mr. Jeremy Reisman. He'll be joining the program here right now. Welcome, Jeremy.
Let's go.
That was a professional segue.
Yeah. I got it. Hey, for you, Jeremy, I'm trying to cook here. Jeremy Reisman, you guys know him. Of course, if you're a Lions fan, you follow them. Prior to Detroit Zone, he's a beat writer for them, and he does great work. And Jeremy, I want to ask you to start off here, and we'll just get right into it. I know I private messaged you about it as well. Can you just because I read your article, it's great. I think you put it very well. The L'Jarius Sneed stuff, I went back and forth with Lions fans yesterday about it, and there's a big part of Lions fans that believe, they need a corner. I understand, but then there's a part of me which I tried to make the argument that does not scream Brad Holmes, Jeremy, at all.
I mean, the guy has really telegraphed everything he's done since he's been here, and all he's been saying all offseason is like, we're not trying to win headlines in March. We're trying to win in December. And I joked about this on my podcast. Someone needs to pull him aside and be like, no, we're trying to win in January, not just December. But yeah, I mean, everything this team has done in the past, it has not been going after that top tier guy. Now, if L'Jarius Sneed was just a plain free agent, maybe there's a shot the Lions at least give a call and see what he's looking for. But now that he's also going to probably be behind the franchise tag, which means you're going to have to trade for him, on top of giving a big deal. Like now we're talking about big draft capital, big free agency capital. It's just not the kind of move that the Lions have made. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. One is that you don't want to necessarily give yourself up to a long and big commitment to a guy you don't know. That's another thing that Dan and Brad have talked about. It's like the reason why we don't go wild in free agency is because we don't know those guys. We don't know if they fit our culture. We don't know if they fit our scheme. We're much more comfortable with the draft and development. And I don't know, like I would get throwing some money at a free agent corner. I think they're going to do that in some fashion. Probably not one of those top tier guys, but a significant investment. But once you start taking draft picks away from Brad Holmes, you're doing this team a disservice. The guy can draft. That's how you build the team. That's how you get a position of need at a young player at a low price. So I'm kind of all out on L'Jarius Sneed. As soon as I heard the Chiefs were going to potentially franchise tag him and facilitate a trade, make it sound like it's oh wow, they're doing all these teams a favor. They're facilitating a trade. No, you're making him cost more, and for that reason, I'm out.
Yeah, L'Jarius Sneed, by the way, former 4th round pick. All right, so let's relax.
You can get that guy in the draft. Let's go.
Brad Holmes can find a guy like him. I agree with you too on that, Jeremy. I think that I'm kind of out on that as well. I do want to ask you this though. I feel like a headline this offseason, obviously, and some stuff came out today about the Amon-Ra St. Brown extension, and then obviously Jared Goff extensions and those conversations, and then Penei Sewell. We spoke with a couple of different people, and they kind of were on both sides of the Jared Goff thing of him if he's going to get extended. Where are you at on that? And I know you're in the building, so you may hear some stuff about it. Do you think all 3 of these guys get extended this offseason?
It's a good question. I think obviously it sounds like Amon-Ra is priority number 1 right now, and that makes sense. I mean, the guy's been underpaid like crazy for the first 3 years in his career. I was just looking at his contract right now, and his signing bonus as a 4th round pick was less than $1 million. He's never made $1 million in salary yet in his career, so I think both sides are probably eager to pay that guy what he's actually worth. So that doesn't surprise me at all. I think Jared Goff is probably next on the list. I do think a deal probably gets done here, just because the team has supported him from the get-go. He brought the team to where they haven't been in 30 years, and he's really been a very steady force for them. There's really only been a handful of games really since they turned it around halfway through that first season that he's struggled. The issue then becomes, and a lot of people don't think about this because they just think about the finances in terms of salary cap, but this also requires a very big cash investment to make 3 big extensions in one offseason. When you're talking about a signing bonus, all that money is paid to the player right away. So if you're paying Amon-Ra, if you're paying Jared Goff, and you're paying Penei Sewell all in one offseason, that requires a huge amount of cash up front from the Ford family. And I don't know if Sheila has that money right away, or if she has to put some in escrow or whatever. But that's just kind of another thing to think about, because the Lions haven't been in this kind of position where they're handing out 3 ginormous extensions in one offseason. So I think with Penei, it would make most sense. You got the 5th-year option to probably wait a year. You can spread out the cap hits respectively, so it's not all hitting at the same time for all 3 of those guys. So if I had to guess, I would probably guess those first 2 get an extension done while you kind of kick the can just a year down the road for Penei. That one's going to get done for sure as well, and he might get paid. I was going to say more than all 3, but obviously the quarterback gets the most. But Penei is going to get the Brinks truck in his backyard.
No doubt. And I'm in lockstep with you there, Jeremy. My question is, outside of the Detroit Lions, Brad, we just talked about the money that they have. Where do you think position-wise, corner, defensive end, offensive line, outside of the Detroit Lions, where do you think they make that first signing? And who would it be as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be, you have to sign a corner. You have to sign probably a guard. It depends if you re-sign Jonah there, but you try to fill as many needs in free agency as you can. And that's what Brad Holmes has said in the past. That's what I always say too, is like, you want to go into the draft. And we know Brad Holmes loves going into the draft where there is not a position in which you have to draft. You have to get a guy. This team is good enough where they shouldn't be relying on that many rookies to start anymore. As good as Brad Holmes is at drafting, like, we cannot expect what happened last year to happen again. This team is too good to have 4 starters. Even if you have four picks again in the top 100, which they do, they're not going to have 4 guys that are starting and contributing at the level that they did last year. And so I think they kind of hit free agency in terms of their needs hard. And that means probably signing 2 or 3 corners, honestly. and a guard if they don't re-sign Jonah. And even if they do re-sign Jonah, there's going to be some depth that they need on that offensive line. They probably need a third tackle because Matt Nelson and Dan Skipper are both free agents. They might bring one or two of those guys back. But yeah, big old Skip. So yeah, I don't know. Like when you look at some of the free agent corners, I'm kind of the belief that I think this team should maybe go veteran there. It'd be nice to get one of these young guys and sign them to those 4-year, $80 million deal. But I kind of like the patchwork idea combined with drafting one. So you get one of those guys that are 30, 32, pick whichever one you want. You want to reunite the Gilmores. I'm down with that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Jeremy, you're speaking our language right now.
Exactly.
Man. That's what we've been preaching over here.
And then you make sure you follow that up with a draft too, so that you have like a Gilmore there to help bring him along. You have 2 veteran corners on your outside for a year or two, and then you hopefully have your future up there in the beginning, because it wasn't that long ago before, the Sauce Gardners threw the narrative out the window where we were saying it takes 2 or 3 years for young corners to develop in this league. And I still think that's mainly the case, but now, Sauce Gardner comes along, even Witherspoon last year, it kind of throws people off and thinks that that's the norm. That's not really the norm. And especially when you're picking at 28, 29, whatever it is, I think the Lions would be wise to maybe sit a young corner on the bench for a year if they can afford to, and play a couple veterans at corner.
And those for who are just tuning in, we're joined by Jeremy Reisman again from Pride of Detroit. You can check them out, prideofdetroit.com. And Jeremy, I know trying to crack the Brad Holmes safe for the draft is like, it's like trying to crack a safe that just won't open. It's nearly impossible. But I'll ask you, in your opinion, at pick 29, what would be the move there ideally for you? Is it you think Brad would trade back, trade up? Because I see the talk of Darius Robinson. I mean, he's been one of the most intriguing players lately, and Lions fans seem to love him. I know Russell Brown and Scott Bischoff, they mentioned a possible offensive lineman at 29. What way do you think Brad will go? What's your gut telling you?
Man, my gut is always telling me he's just going to pick the guy he loves the most. And if there's one of those guys that's at 25 and he just can't wait, he's going to go up and get him. Or if none of those guys are there at 29, he'll drop back. I know this isn't a very definitive answer for you, but I've kind of learned to stop trying to predict what he's going to do, because it really is. It's really about identifying the guys that really fit what they are. And I think that's why everyone is talking about Darius Robinson, is because everything he's said, everything he's done, even, his play style, I think fits what the Lions want to do. I think the thing that's becoming really hard for me right now is figuring out exactly what they want on that defensive line, because, I heard you guys talking about Chop, and I'm very intrigued by a guy like Chop, but I'm also wondering if he fits what they want, because you look, they're kind of looking for 2 different kinds of edges, right? You have your James Houstons. You can even throw Matthew Betts in there, the CFL guy, kind of the same type of they kind of fall into that same bucket as Chop Robinson, these smaller size elite potential pass rushers, but you're concerned about their ability to maybe drop in coverage, because they like to use that position to drop in coverage. And then can they be a 3-down player? That's why James Houston hasn't gotten the playing time that every fan wants him to do. They can't trust him to be a 3-down player. But then you have like these big, tall, massive, long-armed guys like Darius Robinson, and you already have Josh Paschal. You already have John Kaminsky, 2 guys that are very much like it. We know they love those kind of guys. All offer kind of the same thing, where it's like you're great at setting the edge on when you're playing defensive end, but you can also slide inside and give a little pass rush. And I think that's where Darius Robinson kind of separates him from Kaminsky and Josh Paschal, is I think he gives a little bit more pass rush, but at the same time, we've seen so many Lions players break out in year 3 under this regime. Don't you want to give Josh Paschal that chance? And so I'm really going back and forth if we're talking defensive line and what they're potentially looking for, because I think they have some answers already that they're waiting to develop, but also they're so different in what they want at certain positions. I don't know which one they're going to be preferring when they're on the clock there at 29, if at all.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, I'm kind of with you on that. I'm hoping that they kind of revamp this defensive line a little bit. That's been kind of my conversation this offseason, doing that. I do other side of the ball though, real quick, Jeremy. kind of the weapons on offense. We know like Jamo's kind of getting into that year, and Dan actually talked about him becoming that like full-time starter, and the same with Josh Reynolds being a free agent now. Do you see them at all? And I know you said you're not sure really what they'll do at 29. It's hard to see what Brad does. Do you think they add another weapon to this offense, or just say, hey, let's roll with Jamo, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra, and kind of roll with what we have already, or go get a Keon Coleman or a vet free agent, add to this team? Where do you kind of see them going that direction?
I certainly don't think they're going to shy against it if the opportunity arises. I do think that they probably re-sign Josh Reynolds. They love the guy, and they should. He does everything they want to be, everything they want to do. He can play really any of the receiver positions, and they praise him. They praised him all season for his ability to just seamlessly slide in if someone gets injured. If someone is sick, whatever, like he'll go in and he'll play that position, and they won't think twice about it. He's a very smart, cerebral player and a hard worker. So I think they bring him back, but that doesn't really remember when you're drafting for 2-3 years down the line. So who knows where Josh Reynolds is going to be in 2 years? Who knows where Jamo is going to be in 2 years? If they find a guy that's their dude, if it is like if Keon Coleman is there, like I'm very much of the belief he's in play at 29. Regardless of who else is on the board, because I think you have to play the draft 2 or 3 years down the line. And for as good as maybe the wide receiver position looks in 2024, it's going to look different in 2025. It's going to look different in 2026. So that's what you're drafting for. And so I think wide receiver is absolutely on the table for 29 if the right guy is there.
Yeah, and just talking about the draft, I just want to move back to free agency for a second. So the cap just went up, I believe, a little over $30 million. And a huge part of this free agency for the Detroit Lions is what they do with Jonah Jackson. So in your opinion, do you think that boost in salary cap space increases the likelihood to re-sign Jonah? And if they do you support it? Just because I have a little pushback just because of his injury history with the amount that he's going to command from the salary cap.
Yeah, I think it maybe increases his chances a little bit. It was interesting when Brad Holmes joined, I think 97.1 earlier this week on Monday. He was asked about the salary cap increase and how that impacts, maybe how they maneuver. And he actually said it probably doesn't impact you internally all that much because you already kind of earmark that money in the offseason. You already kind of plan for what you wanted to do internally ahead of time. And so maybe that makes me think that this doesn't change things that much, but he did note but externally, maybe this means one guy that you thought was out of reach is now kind of in the conversation, and maybe one extra signing you can make. But with Jonah, it's really tough. I'm very curious as to what his agency is pushing for, because the injuries have obviously been a problem. Even when he was healthy this year, it wasn't his best season. But I still believe he's very much a culture fit. I think he's a scheme fit. I mean, he is a mauler in the run game. I thought he struggled in pass protection this year, but in general, I think he's a very good run blocker. And obviously that's kind of what they base their entire offense on. So if they could bring him back for like a 10 to 12 million a year type of deal, maybe 3 years, 30 million, 3 years, 33 million, something like that. I think you probably still try to get it done, because the one thing, again, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have said all offseason is we are not going to ignore the offensive line position. We know that is how we made our bread and butter last year. We know it's the engine under the hood. We can't let that slide. We got to make sure, even though we want to improve everywhere else, we can't take a step back in a position so critical as offensive line. And even if they were drafting one, that's a pretty big risk to start a rookie. I don't think a guy like Colby Sorsdal is necessarily going to be ready in 2024. And as they've said, you never know if an external free agent is going to fit what you want to do. So I'm still kind of the belief that they should at least attempt to bring back Jonah Jackson. But if we're starting to talk 14, 15 million a year, that's when I think you got to start looking at plan Bs.
Hey, real quick, Jeff, just real quick, I got to follow up on that. And I was thinking about this today. I'm listening to different Jared Goff stuff earlier today. Do you think there's and I know you already mentioned the Jared Goff contract. Do you think there's a scenario where Jared's speaking with Jonah Jackson and Graham and is hey, maybe I'll take a little bit less? And I know this is it might be a conspiracy, but he works with these guys hand in hand all year. He gets close with them. Is there a thing where he's instead of 45, hey, I'll take 41 or 42. I'll make sure, but are you guys going to come back if I do that? And they kind of have a little discussion in-house on. I thought of that today, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and it popped up in my head, and I'm I wonder if that's been a conversation in that room there.
It's an interesting thought, and you have to imagine the guys talk about money every now and then, right? I'm sure it's impossible for them not to. But in general, I kind of think like the hometown discount thing, I think that's generally something that's a little bit more fan generated than in reality. Everyone always brings up Brady and
Yep.
I feel like, again, that's more the exception than the norm.
Yes.
And with Jonah, you remember he's coming off his rookie deal too, so he's gonna want to get paid. Will Jared Goff? I don't know how many Detroit Red Wings chance of Jared Goff it takes for him to take a hometown discount, but the Lions fans are sure trying. I don't know. I wouldn't discount it 100%, but in general, I think players are going to want to get paid, and this could be Jared Goff's last big contract as well, or they could make it a little bit of a shorter term deal so that maybe he has one more opportunity to cash in before his play decreases. So I mean, it's always possible, but in general, I tend to think that sort of stuff is wishful thinking, and man, I wish it too. Like even if Goff were to accept a $45 million a year deal, I think that would be very quote unquote team friendly. So hopefully that's the number we're looking at, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see it closer or even surpass 50 million a year.
Yeah. Hey, I'll go around every event in Detroit and start chanting Jared Goff. That helps him
keep doing it.
I'll do what I need to do for the people.
Drink all the Kool-Aid in the world to make it happen.
Oh yeah.
Honestly.
I will.
Great stuff, Jeremy. We appreciate you for taking the time to join the program. You guys can find Jeremy on X at Detroit Online. Check out the guys over at Pride Detroit. They're crushed, man. They're doing great work.
Great work.
Jeremy, I do want to ask you, did you find your keys get back? You get your keys?
We'll see.
Right.
It's been a month and a half long saga from the San Francisco airport. We'll see.
What happened?
I left my keys in San Francisco when I was there for the NFC Championship game, and I have a little tracker on it, and it was there for like 4 weeks straight, didn't move, and then it went to a UPS FedEx right outside of the airport. Now it's in Texas at another FedEx right by that airport, and like there's a way that you can like scan the QR code on the little tracker that gives you like my contact information. So fingers crossed that someone saw it, found it, and have now sent it my way.
Yeah, there's a
chance. That'd be something. The odds on that are insane.
I know.
That's
it's a fun little saga to follow.
Yeah. We'll stay in touch, Jeremy. I appreciate you, man, for taking the time.
Appreciate it, Jeremy.
Thanks, fellas.
Appreciate you, Jeremy.
And there you go, Jeremy Reisman. Again, answered a lot of the questions I had. So, especially the ones you guys asked. I think the Jared Goff extension one, that's the first guest we've had that was on the side of you, Booner, and what we kind of believe, which that extension will get done. He fully believes that. He thinks Panay might, because Panay had the 5th-year option too.
I do think, and he brought up a really good point about the hey, can they afford that many? Because those are big signing bonuses, especially like depending on how you're trying to work the cap and how much you want the cap hit to be and all of that. Like if you don't feel like you can afford it and afford other signing bonus, like that is true. Like those are 3 big time signing bonuses that you have to put out. And if I'm being honest, like if you were to pick 2 out of the 3, I would probably obviously pick Panay, Amon-Ra, like that I would rather have signed. But if you're like a GM and you're looking at it in a sense to where, hey, I'm pretty sure Panay's 5th-year option now, they announced it like a week ago, the NFL did. I think it's worth like about $20 million, if I remember correctly. So like that's still a lot of money for him. Like I would rather get Amon-Ra signed, take care of him. Obviously he's not making much. Your quarterback who doesn't have that 5th-year option, and then you can go, hey, Panay, we do have that 5th option. I'm sure he's a guy that's like, no matter what happens, like Jared Goff, knock on wood, if Jared Goff got hurt, like we already had that conversation about his extension, that could mess a lot of things up for him. But a guy like Panay Sewell, no matter what happens in the next year or two, he will be extended no matter what, and he will get probably the biggest deal when it comes to O-line. So like that 5th year is something maybe that, hey, you take a step back, say, hey, Panay, and I'm sure he understands, and then you move on from that. So that's a great point. That was a great point.
In kind of the segue there, speaking of extensions, Dave Burkett put on Twitter today, or X. Dave. Yeah, shout out to Dave, man. Lions got some good beat writers. He reported that St. Brown is in Indy to discuss his contract extension with Brad Holmes. Kind of just get like a feel, maybe his agent's there, get a little vibe of what the contract could be. And we posted on our X account. You can follow it at Official CT Pod, Crunch Time with Jeff Iafrate and Booner. And we put the tweet out. Breaking news: the Detroit Lions are meeting with Amon-Ra, St. Brown's agent, at the NFL Combine this week to discuss an extension per Dave Burkett. What do you think the Sun God's contract will look like? And the reason why I'm bringing this up isn't because, oh my God, why does it keep doing that? All right, we're good. The reason why I bring it up,
Gentry.
yeah, the reason why I brought it up isn't because should he get paid or not. We know he should get paid. It's Amon-Ra St. freaking Brown. Like we all agree he should get paid whatever he wants. Now, to stir the pot a little bit, I'll ask you fellas, what does he deserve to get paid? Because I know it's easy to say, give the guy anything he wants, blank check, which I get, right? Like I say that, but I'm joking. At the same time, you gotta do this very, very smart. And you look at Justin Jefferson, who's due for a new deal. He's probably going to set that record. I know JJ. He definitely will
100% will.
And as he deserves to, right? Like Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill got paid. Those two on average per year, according to overthecap.com, they're making him almost close to 30. Tyreek's at 30. Devontae's at 28. Cooper Kupp's at 26.7. AJ's at 25. DK's at 24. Stephon Diggs at 24. So on and so forth. So you have Tyreek Hill and Devonta Adams at 30 and 28. And then Justin Jefferson, assuming he's going to break that. Where does he align? What do you think he deserves?
I've got this right here. Ready?
Go ahead, Booner. Cook, Boone.
Harold Williams, 25, 4 years, 100 million. Like that is literally in my notes. That is what I literally put exactly what he put there. I'm on the side. I do see there's some people who open check, like I'll give him whatever he wants. He could be the highest paid. I'm not on that kind of, and you guys know I'm like the biggest Amon-Ra guy. Like, but he's like my friend at this point. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is he is just coming out of his third season, and this is nothing against Amon-Ra. He's a first team All-Pro player. He just put a massive stat line up this year. He basically helped you get, like, he was one of the biggest reasons you were in the NFC Championship game. But at the end of the day, it's like he's going to get another contract probably in the Detroit Lions uniform. I'm not saying that's a reason not to pay him, but I think that number between 20 to 25 million is like the ideal, like, okay, this is going to be his contract. Like, you are going to have to look at it to where if you do give him 30 million, what like Tyreek and Devontae have, that takes away from a lot more. And I think 25 is like the perfect number because that puts him right there with the A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, guys who have gotten first team All-Pro, have been in those like waters. And it's like that's kind of the average at that point. And I don't think Amon-Ra has been like a Justin Jefferson to where, hey, you can go break the bank and give him 30 plus million. I think 25 is perfect. And then think about this, guys. If he does this for another 3 years, another 4 years, then you extend him for that 30, 35 and whatever the market is at that point, because he's done that for you for 4 or 5 years. But he's just done it for 2 years now. It's like, okay, like these guys that we're talking about, Tyreek Hill, Devontae, dude, these guys have been in the league for 6-7 seasons. Like these aren't guys who just got in the league and they just had 1 or 2 good years. These are guys who have been in the league. And I don't want to take anything away from Saint or anything like that, but it's like, hey, this is where it's at, 25 million. Like we need to take care of other people too. 25 is perfect, team friendly. Like, here you go. This is a great deal. 4 years, 25 million going from a 4th round. Like, I think that's perfect for him. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much I have to elaborate after that. I thought it was really well said. The only thing I will say is I could see it being like a 26, just a little bit north, because he could be like, look what A.J. Brown's getting. That was last year, I believe. He's like, look what I did for you this year. Give me a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. And I could see he could be one of the exceptions where Brad's maybe like, well, I've been saving up this money and we've been expecting it. We're not going to pay you 30. I'd honestly be kind of frustrated if they paid him 30, to Booner's point, with exactly what he said about Tyreek Hill and Devonta Adams. Like, those guys were all pro wide receivers before they got those bags. They were all pro wide receivers on the rookie contracts, or at least towards the end of them. So once Amon-Ra does that, yeah, give him the 3-year 30. But Booner, that was perfectly said in my opinion. 25, 26 for 4 years. I'm there.
Oh, real quick before I kind of share my thoughts here, I do want to go through some of the giving memberships away / super chats here. Robin's Nest at the beginning of the show gifted 5 Crunch Time members. We appreciate you.
Shout out.
Very nice for Robin's Nest. Thank
awesome.
you. Hope your goats
very nice.
Hey, hope your goats are doing well. She's raising goats. Sam Lagoda, aka Steve Lehman, member for 1 month. I don't care who we get as long as we get Fisk. Okay, well there you go, Steve Lehman. We appreciate you. Answer 14, donating $20. Thank you so much, brother.
Man, appreciate you.
And bring him home. Party on, boys. And then Robin became a Crunch member for 1 month, 4 for 100 million with a 5th year option in there. Well, I'll say this, like with St. Brown, and I've said this before, and I still really do. I do believe this. It's not always about who's the best. It's about who's next. That's how these things work. It's always been that way. The cap just went up. if you ask me, okay, Jeff, well, Tyreek's getting 30. Do you think St. Brown's a better wide receiver or will ever have a better season than Tyreek Hill? No, I don't. But you're not just paying a guy based on that. Yes, that's what his job is, but I look at things he does besides catching the football. He's an amazing run blocker. He's a guy that you never have to worry about off the field. Check Tyreek Hill. You never have to worry about Amon-Ra St. Brown. You just never have to, which I think matters, right? Like he's going to be available. Yeah. He's durable, and his work ethic is one of the most impressive work ethics I think I've ever seen. And his work ethic and his mindset, I know a lot of guys aren't public with it, and he's not really public, but the rate he works, to me, that's something that it doesn't come around often. Like those guys are hard to obtain with that type of mindset. Shout out to his dad as well, John Brown, who probably instilled that work ethic. I would pay St. Brown damn near whatever that man asked for. I'm serious. And maybe if you're getting to like 30 plus, 33, 34, maybe not. But if he wants to get paid 30.100,
you'd be cool with it.
You're doing that?
I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't know how I can come back and say no. Like I can say, well, St. Brown, would you mind taking less? And he could say, well, I deserve to be paid. I've made pennies up until this point, and I want to get paid. And I just had an all-pro season. I'm like, okay, well, based on that, the cap going up $30 million, bump them up a couple million. If you think it should be 26, maybe it's 28, 29. I mean, at this point, guys, I don't think it's even worth like pissing the dude off to try and like lowball.
You know what?
Like honestly, just give the man what he wants, get it over with.
That's
my opinion. I wouldn't pay him.
Fair.
I wouldn't pay him 30, like I said, 31, 32, 33. Just give him like $1 more than Tyreek, whatever it is. Because there'll be a guy, JJ will jump that. And then someone will jump that.
JJ's going to probably be like 34, 35, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just how the market works. It's just how maybe he won't even ask for 30 plus. I'm just saying, to me, if I'm Brad, I'm going into it like talking to his agent. I'm like, what does he need? Okay, he wants 29 and a half, or he wants 100,000 more than Tyreek, whatever it is. Done. Get it done.
Two things with that too, real quick. Number one, I want to say this is there is no circumstance in this world that I don't want Amon-Ra St. Brown to be on this team.
Oh yeah,
I want him to be here his whole career. So to your point, Jeff, if he does ask for that, like, yes, you should negotiate and have that conversation. There's no reason at all that man should walk away and not have a contract at the end of this weekend. If that's what they're doing this weekend at the combine, he should have a contract. And if it does end up being 30 and he's like puts his foot down, and I think he knows that he does have that leverage. Yeah. Number two, though, I think Amon-Ra goes in there and says, I'll take the 25. I'm good.
And he could.
I truly believe that. And maybe he doesn't. I just think that he will go in there and he'll say, hey, I'll take 25. Let's meet there. Obviously, Tyreek's at 30. Devontae's at 28, 29. JJ is going to be 30 plus. Like, I know where these guys are at. I'm going to have another big contract in 2 or 3 years that we can talk about and we can extend again. But right now, I'll take the 25 and leave. But like, if he asks for 30, dude, and that's where he's put his foot down. He said, I'm not going. I'm only going to stay if you give me that 30, or we won't do an extension. To me, it's you have to take it. You can't let a guy like Amon-Ra out the door. Like he needs to be in Detroit forever.
My only pushback to that, Booner, is that man's been getting fined to oblivion, especially this year. So I think he's been vocal about it too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, hey, I've been playing on this 4th round contract and been a top 3 wide receiver for you this year. Give me my money. Give me my money. And you can't hold him. What about this though? What about this, real quick, fellas? Let me get it real quick. If no contract, I'd trade Amon-Ra. Then I saw another one. The doc.
I think Lucas was about to go off there.
Yeah. For a second, I thought it was me because I was in a different tab looking at his fines. I wanted to see the price, and I was like, "Wait a second, did I just get kicked out?"
Well, to answer the question there, Doc, no, absolutely not. I'm not trading St. Brown.
No, never.
Let me bring up this point. Let me bring up this point, and I would like Lucas here to kind of for him to hear it, but I'll just ask you, Boone. I want your thoughts on this. Look at the best receivers in the NFL, okay? And look at Super Bowl champions. Am I wrong for saying that every team or most teams that have won a Super Bowl has had a middle of the field receiver, someone that excels in the middle of the football field? I've heard that point from somebody who does. I can't remember. Was it Joel Klatt? It might have been Joel Klatt. Regardless, someone brought that up, and I had to think about it. Travis Kelce for the Chiefs, consistent. Sure. You can rely on him because people will bring up, well, Amon-Ra as a slot guy. Well, and here's Lucas. I'll bring him back. And real quick,
that was great timing for.
And the point I'm making, Lucas, I want you to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay.
So I made the point for St. Brown. People will say, well, he's a slot guy, right? He's a possession receiver. Can I make the point that teams that win the Super Bowl, and yes, you look at quarterback play, but every team, go back and look. Most teams that have had success have a guy that excels in the middle of the field, the middle of the football field. They always do. Chiefs, Kelce. You look at the Rams, Cooper Kupp, for example, guys that are just not necessarily take the top off. I know Tyreek Hill was once a Chief, but you need guys that are just reliable. I think St. Brown, you could bring up, well, he's limited. Oh, okay, I get that. But if you're in a Super Bowl, you need someone to move the chains. Like, that's a guy that you will consistently be able to count on. That's why I just think the importance of him. He's not flashy, right? He's not Justin. I get that. But, like,
should never leave this football team.
What he's great at, I think the Lions will use him and need him once they do reach these Super Bowl heights, we think. So that's my belief. I mean, go back, like Jeff Olsen, real quick. Jeff Olsen, Chris Godwin was an all-pro out of the slot with the Bucs. And I'm not comparing the two, but remember when Brady won the Super Bowl, yes, there was Mike Evans. There's also Chris Godwin. Like, you just need a guy like that. Is that a take? Is that a bad take?
No, not at all. Because you go back to the Steelers with Hein Ward. When you go back to the Panthers when they were good with Steve Smith, you can go back. I mean, to your point, yes, Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, like you can keep going down the line. Amon-Ra St. Brown does not run a 4-4, and he's not a Mike Evans on the outside. But to say that he's not dynamic and doesn't have a bag with him, I don't think it's true. You look at the way they use him in the run game, in motions, in screens, even over the middle. He's just the only thing that he doesn't have is that elite deep threat, but he can do that with making up for yards after the catch. So, yes, he doesn't have the skill set of CeeDee Lamb, but he's putting up CeeDee Lamb type of production. Yes. So when people say that stuff, like, if there's the exceptions to your guys' point, there's the Tyreek Hills, the Devonta Adams, the Justin Jefferson. He is not that. But the other wide receivers in the NFL are not either. So to act like he's not up there with the top guys in that second upper echelon category, like the A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, he is right there. And if those guys are getting paid that money, there's no reason he shouldn't.
I mean, you don't just see teams like, you don't see like the Bengals being like, we're going to move on from Jamar Chase. Like, you just don't. No. Like, you don't see that, especially when you have to pay a guy. And the thing is, it's like the difference between a guy like a Jamar Chase or like if you want to use the Tyreek Hill in Kansas City example, where Tyreek Hill ended up leaving because they couldn't pay him because they were paying Patrick Mahomes. Guess what? The Detroit Lions aren't paying Patrick Mahomes, and the Detroit Lions aren't paying Joe Burrow. They're paying Jared Goff. Like, they're paying less money at those positions to where they can keep Amon-Ra at the price that he might want and ask for. To where like a Tyreek Hill had to leave the Chiefs because he asked them for a certain price and they felt like they couldn't do it and keep everyone around there and still can kind of continue to compete. So like you just don't see that. And I think like the Lions, like the 30 seems like a lot, but like if you're getting a quarterback, Jared Goff, 45, 42 million, like you're able to do that, dude. And like, there's no reason at all. Like, you saw what Amon-Ra St. Brown could do this year. He had all of those 100-yard games, more than A.J. Brown. When A.J. Brown's getting talked about, oh, he's 7 straight. Like, no, Amon-Ra St. Brown went out and did that. He's a first-team All-Pro player. Like, he deserves the money. I don't think there's any – I don't think anyone in this chat, any Lions – anyone can convince me that there's a way to trade Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's no way. He is, like, literally – this culture has gotten built the last 3 years to what it's got up to, and he is like him and Penei Sewell and Jared Goff are like the hearts of that. Like, they're the reasons why you're winning football games now, not just on the field, off the field, culture-wise. Like, if you trade a guy like him or you don't pay a guy like him, what's that example setting, in my opinion? Like, you're setting an example of, hey, you could do all the right things. You can do what we preach about. You can also put the numbers up and be in a first-team All-Pro, but guess what? Hey, we're still not going to pay you. We're not going to reward you. Like, you have to pay him, and you can't trade him. You can't do anything. Like, you have to reward guys like that who just took you to an NFC Championship game. You have to.
I mean, look at the facts, man. He is up there. What does he have? The most catches in his first 3 years, or one of the
tied for the third most of all time, most all time in NFL history.
He doesn't drop the football. Which again, what do we remember last of Lions fans? Josh Reynolds dropping the football, and Amon-Ra had to drop too. He actually a couple drops, but besides the point, for the majority of the season, he is reliable, and he was throughout most of his career. I just think, and I think this is a great. Here we go, and I'm going to address that comment in a second here. I meant to bring up Shane Daniel. I love this comment. People are accounting for what he brings, aren't accounting for what he brings off the field. Here's the definition of what this team's all about. And I'm not saying you pay a guy because he makes you feel good. I'm not saying that. Like, oh, I like him, so I want to pay him. Like, no, I think that's one of those guys that people bring up. Like, if you don't sign this guy, it's going to hurt the locker room. That's a guy that I think he embodies.
He makes you feel good and he produces. He does.
Yeah, he sets the standard. When simply put, when you're a wide receiver, when you're a running back, when you're a tight end, hell, even if you're an offensive lineman at this point and you're a young player, you're an incoming free agent, you're looking to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because why? You know that he puts the production up, and you know that when you're watching him, that he worked to get that production. He was a 4th-round pick that kind of came on in midway through his rookie season, and then after that, he's never looked back and only improved and improved and improved. What player does not want to do that? Now the fact he's an all-pro, he's making plays in the NFC Championship game, he's a captain on a Super Bowl contender. Every player, regardless of what position or side of the ball that they play, are going to be looking up to Amon-Ra St. Brown in the Detroit Lions locker room. So that is, I think, the perfect way to put it. He just sets the standard, simply put.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, guys. Like, about the contract number, I don't quite frankly care. I mean, I care if it's like if you start getting to a number where it's like unrealistic, like the guy wants quarterback money or whatever it is, I get that. But like, if you're paying him $1 more than Tyreek Hill, like, I'm sorry, guys. I said it's not about who's the best. Get that out of your mind. It's about who's next. That's how it is. And I don't blame. Maybe St. Brown won't even ask for more than Tyreek. Maybe he'll just be like, hey, I know my place. I'll ask for 26. Okay,
that's
cool.
right. That's right.
Now,
I think he comes in and says 25 and let's move on.
Mm-hmm. If there is, I'm just saying, prepare yourselves. If there is a number that comes out and you're like, ooh, 30 million, I'll be sitting there like, guys, like, it is what it is. Like, you got to keep
think about this. People don't really like the cap's going to keep going up, and the wide receiver market's going to keep going up. So like it's like the quarterback situation. Like, Stafford had the highest, the highest contract in NFL history. But guess what? In a couple of years, it looked like it was like the 7th highest one. So like that's gonna happen, and it's gonna all kind of make itself out. Like when Panay signs, he's gonna sign probably the biggest one in offensive line history. But guess what? In a year or two, it's gonna kind of level itself out, and he's gonna end up being the 5th, 6th, 7th highest paid. And that's just the way it works. And like that's why I'm not gonna be like if it's the 30, I'm gonna be like, it's a lot. I was hoping for 25. Like I really was hoping for 25. But all right, we got him locked in. We can move on. We've got our guy. And next year, at the end of next season, whenever Justin Jefferson signs his, all right, then he's not the highest paid at that point. Yeah.
And again, appreciate you, Freddie. Fell through 1-3. By the way, we'll see you down in Indy on Friday. We'll be there in the afternoon. So if you're down there, we'll catch you. That's a good friend of ours. Great dude. He says, whoever proposed trading St. Brown is smoking a crack rock. You're disqualified from talking about football. Yeah, I think John was proposing. He was just throwing the thought.
Yeah, it was just a thought.
It would be a sad day in my life if Amon-Ra St. Brown got traded or we let him go. Like, it would be a very that would be one of the most sadder days of my lifetime.
I almost shed a tear over the Golden Tate trade. I don't even know how. I mean, before even that, just the Megatron retirement, then followed by the Golden Tate trade to Philly for a 3rd-round pick was disgusting. Yeah. Kenny Galladay.
Well, speaking
real
of
quick,
Kenny,
are we? I'm sorry to cut you off. Are we? I want to make it very clear for the chat. We think and we want Brad Holmes to pay Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, it's not
I've
even.
Seen a lot of comments that are, and maybe I'm reading them wrong. Of people being like, guys, like Brad, like, no, God, we are in on it. We're just saying, like, hey, if he did 25 would be awesome. Like, that would be team friendly. That would be amazing. If he does start, like, I'm happy. If he pays him $35 million, I don't like. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But I just want I just want to make sure we're clear with that. I've seen some comments that are like, fellas, what are we doing? Like, we want that man in Detroit and pay him his money.
The question is, are you comfortable? With worst case scenario, which is $30 million. That was
comfortable with it.
And comfortable. We're all comfortable. We just accept it. I do want to bring up while we get Lucas back here. I know he's RIP Lucas until he returns. Internet's acting up. I do want to bring up this segment, which we're going to get to now. I want to ask who, because we've been doing this, Dan Campbell guys, whatever it is, but just on the top, we'll get to that next week after the combine. But rank your top 3 first-round draft picks as of right now. I think it's a fun topic heading into the combine. Top 3 guys that you're most interested in for the Detroit Lions. because I think you can go a lot of different ways with this, whether it's at 29. It doesn't have to be round specific, just players in general. And Booner, I'll start with you, man. I guess we'll go. Are we doing? Yeah, I guess we are. Top 3 as in one's the most. I want this player.
I think one is the most. I looked at it as if you're at 29 and you had 3 players that you
at 29.
Yeah, at 29, like 1, 2, 3, like rank your players to where if they're available, you would go. If they're all on the board, first you would draft this guy. I kind of had trouble with it a little bit, just because like we've talked about a lot of dudes at 29. So I don't know. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go like 3, 2, 1, or like we each give one at a time, or?
Yeah, we can go 3, 2, 1. That's fine with me.
All right, I'll start with my third if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at my third here, if he's available, I put in my third, I put to trade up for him. Like if I'm sitting at 29, I want Dan Campbell to get this guy, and it's Jackson Powers Johnson. I just like I put in there not to do play like position, but offensive line. I think that's the number one guy I think for the Lions, to where if you're sitting at 29 and you see he's at like 25 somehow, 24, and he's dropped a little, I want Brad Holmes. Like that's a Brad Holmes guy. Go up and get him. Just go get him. Like if I'm drafting in the first round, that's who I'm going to go get. That was my third choice there. I don't know if I did that, if that was fine that I did that.
No, it makes sense.
I think that should be like at the top of your list. Like go get that man.
So for me, my third, and there's so much. I have a couple more that like I would like off it. We can make this list a little deeper. But if we're just doing 3, we'll just do 3. My third is Kamari Lassiter. That's my 3. So that's like a guy that I'd prefer if you're taking a corner. I know I mentioned Kool-Aid McKinstry. He'd probably be 4. Like those guys, I like both those corners. If they're available, Quinyon Mitchell, I don't think will be. So I didn't put him down. But Kamari Lassiter would be my third. Now, if we're going top 3 players, we prefer the Lions to take.
I've been told in the comment section.
Come on, bro.
Not to. I've been told not to raise my hands, and when people tell me to do something, I love to do it even more. So I'm gonna raise my hand for that. Jeff, I got a question for you.
Yes,
right here, front row. Jeff, in that situation, I think that's like a perfect scenario for Brad Holmes to trade back and get him still.
Yeah, and that's probably true. To be honest, I think he'll be there. I think he'll be there after that a little bit.
I think you would trade with the Packers or something at like 42 and just boom.
Yeah, just fleece Brian Goons to Coons, whatever his name is. Again, just fleece him for another DB. But I have Kamari Lassiter. Who's your 2?
Number 2 here, I went wide receiver. I went Keon Coleman. I have him as a second priority. Yeah. So I know yesterday we talked about this in the conversation that we had. I dropped my Sharpie. The conversation we had where, and it was good. I think it might have been Lukas or Gentry who asked the question, but it was like, hey, would you rather go defensive line or corner? And it was like, all right, defensive line. Would you rather go corner or offensive line? I was like, offensive line. Corner or wide receiver? And I was like, wide receiver. And that's kind of where I landed with my 1, 2, 3 list. Is number 3, I went offensive line, 2 wide receiver. I think Keon Coleman, if McConkey's there and he tests well, maybe. If Roman Wilson tests well, I know a lot of people are like, well, he's a lot like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Guess what? The Rams went out there and got a guy just like Cooper Kupp or similar to him, to where I know he's a little bit of a different game, but you could kind of sit there and say, hey, those are 2 guys that are similar and learning from each other. So that's a thing if Roman tests well. But I think if Keon Coleman's sitting there at 29, I think I'm going Keon Coleman. I'm at Jeremy brought up a good point to where you're drafting best player available, and the reason you do that is for the next 3 or 4 seasons. You don't know what's going to happen next year with Josh Reynolds. You don't know what's going to happen in the next couple years with Jamo. Like, you don't know. But if you can get the best player available and you get a Keon Coleman to help that offensive out, I think I'm doing it, and I'm pulling the trigger and doing that. And I love Keon Coleman. I think he's going to be one of the best in the draft at his position.
It's funny you brought that up, because if they're taking a wide receiver, point blank, period, he's on a short list for me in the draft. I'm not just talking about the first round. I'm talking about I'm not a big advocate for taking a wide receiver. I do like, we're a pro Keon Coleman show here. Pro Keon Coleman. We like Xavier Legette. I like Malachi Corley. I like him a lot too. I know that's Lucas's guy. So those are like the 3 I'm comfortable with. I think you nailed that one. I think Keon Coleman's a great one. I don't have him in my top 3, but he's not too far behind. For me, 2, Darius Robinson. I have Darius Robinson here. I think he's a guy that I've fallen in love with. I don't have him 1 because there's a player I think is a better player that I think could be there. but I think Darius Robinson, based on what he brings on the field, his ability to play multiple positions on the defensive line, his physicality, his size, length, I mean, he kind of checks a lot of boxes. I know the testing stuff is something the Lions are going to look at. I know their formal interview is probably more valuable, and they found out a lot about him. He seems like a smart, intelligent, mature, well-spoken, just a good dude. Like, you listen to him do his interviews, and Chris Sims was like, Jesus, man, you're nailing these answers. Every answer he gave was just like, he's a pro. He's already a pro. Like, he's just answering these questions. Boom, boom, boom. And I think Darius Robinson is a guy that the Lions have fallen in love with. I do. I don't know where he'll go. I don't know if his stock's, if it's risen that much to where he'll go, early 20s. Who knows? But I like Darius Robinson. He's number 2 for me. And if they have to trade up to get him, I would be open to doing that. I think that's a guy that, again, against the run, rushing the passer, Boone, sign me up.
I'm gonna one up you on this. My number 1 overall was Darius Robinson. I've fallen in love with him the last few days. Him being at I told myself, and I think we told us at the show, we talked like, don't fall for the combine. But I think it's easier for me, at least, like to fall for a guy and be like, hey, I really like this pick and I would love him, based off the way he talks in interviews and the way he kind of approaches that, more so than the way he tests. Like, him testing, I think it's like that much better. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, if you test well, that puts a bow on top. The conversations he's had, the answers he's had, he's been moving up in the draft. Like, he wasn't at the, I feel like we talked about it today. You literally pulled up a mock draft and yesterday as well. And I told you guys, I was like, dude, he's been at like 26, 27. And no one really realized that, because just the last couple of days he's been moving up. And I think it's with these answers, and like, people are seeing what he can do and what he can bring. And Jeremy even mentioned it here too. It's like it feels like that he's more of a fit for what this Lions defense is about, and this defensive line is about, and what they're trying to address, over a guy like Chop Robinson or some guys like that. So, dude, if he's at 29, and to your point, if you need to get up to 26, 25 to snag him real quick, I wouldn't be mad. Like Brad has the draft capital to do it. I like Darius Robinson. Like, just watch his film. I know it's not like, he's not like your ideal defensive end like a Hutch, but
I will bring this up.
He brings a lot to the table.
Yeah, he does. I know the testing numbers didn't, at least the 40 was something that people were like, oh, he ran a 4.95. But like, other than that, like, his RAS score was 9.64, which is comparable to Eric Armstead. Actually, fun fact. And Eric Armstead, he was a really good player. You got to think too, Darius Robinson, when you look at things like the 40 time, this is a guy who was 300 pounds. He was 300 pounds playing defensive tackle, and he cut weight. Now he's running a 40. Like, this is a guy who's a former defensive tackle. So when we get into like, oh, what was his 40? We got to chill on that sometimes. I think he did well in the other things, right, that you do look for in a guy like that. And I do think that he would just, 6'5", long arms, large wingspan, lots of potential there. I think it'd be, Terrell Williams, Aaron Glenn are looking at this guy like, oh yeah, we can turn this dude into a beast. I mean, he's it's not like his highlights at Missouri are like, oh my God, you must have. I mean, he had 8.5 sacks. It was impressive. He played well.
It was like he dominates every play though. Even if he's not like affecting, like in there getting a tackle, like he's affecting the game.
Yep.
And like, that's what you want. Like, in me, I just like, what do we talk about with Hutch every time? It's like, dude, we just want someone on the other side or on that line that like Hutch can get to the quarterback and someone can take some guys away and win a one-on-one. He can win a one-on-one every time. And one of the best things that who was it? Was it Scott that said it? Did we talk to him about Darius Robinson? He said like right now he is literally an NFL defensive lineman instantly. And he will come in and he will dominate instantly. And to me, like when you're coming for a Super Bowl and you're looking to build a team, best player available is someone who can go in and start right away at 29, or if you have to go up a couple spots to get him, I'm doing it. Like, you want someone who can play right, like especially in the first round. And I did send in our group chat, Jeff, his RAS score too, which he tested pretty well.
9.64.
If you see his, I don't know if we put it up already or today, but he tested very well. I can't remember if we put it up. Brain might turn it into mush over here.
Yeah. Now that we got Lucas, we got the ball Nor back. We were doing just to kind of catch you up. We're just doing our top 3 kind of favorite guys that are in play at 29, guys that we like. There's a lot here. I mean, we could go like 5 deep. My third was Kamari Lassiter, and my second was Darius Robinson. Boone's third was Jackson Powers Johnson, right? And your second was Keon Coleman.
Jackson Powers Johnson, if you trade up to get him, Keon Coleman at 29, and then Darius Robinson at number 29 as well.
And if you have a top 3 list, you can read it off. If you want to react to ours, you can do.
So because I have mine, but what was yours, Jeff?
So I had Kamari Lassiter at 3, Darius Robinson at 2, and actually my number 1, I haven't said it yet, Jackson Powers Johnson. That's my number 1.
Okay.
Because I would love to add him to this defensive line, offensive line. I would love to. So those are my 3. You got Boone's 3. What about you?
My number 3, Keon Coleman. My number 2, Jackson Powers Johnson. And my number 1, fellas, and I don't think people in Detroit are talking about this man enough. I don't know if it's because they don't think he's there, but I think this is a guy that Brad could trade up for. I know they haven't visited him yet, so I don't know. But Jerzon Newton out of Illinois. I'm telling you, he's one of my – I think he's without a doubt the best interior defensive lineman in this draft. And he's just mammoth of a human being. I just think the dynamic of him and Aleem.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have lost him.
No, you're good. You're good, Lucas. You're good.
Yeah,
you're good, baby. You're good, baby. You're good, baby.
I can't stressing me out, boys.
No, you're good. You're good.
You're good,
brother.
I'm getting the Jeff vein.
Yeah, I could see it.
You're good. You're good.
It's
I can't see it, so you're good. Let that vein come out. Can't see it.
Hey, pause. I'll keep it there. So before my Wi-Fi decides it's mad at me for saying something about Jerzon Newton, but Jerzon Newton for sure.
Yeah, your internet provider's like, nah, Jerzon ain't him.
Yeah, not this one.
I'm interested with him to see if like how far like you would have to move up to get him if Brad's willing to.
I think he's in that Jackson Powers Johnson range.
Yeah.
So would you rather move up for Jackson Powers Johnson or him? I think that's a legit question.
So I can go this from 2 different angles. Are you asking Lucas like which player he likes more, or what do you think Brad Holmes would do? If it's me,
let's go both.
I'm taking Jerzon Newton. If I'm trading up for Jerzon Newton. I would also trade up for Jackson Powers Johnson. But if you're asking me which one I'm taking, Jerzon Newton. What do I think Brad would more likely do? Jackson Powers Johnson.
That's a good question, Boone. That's a good one because I'm kind of struggling with it. I think Jerzon would be him and Aleem.
And he's like he's physical. Like he plays with aggression. Like he doesn't just like get to the quarterback and make sure they go. Like he's trying to kill the quarterback every time possible. He's trying to inflict pain. And that's what this Detroit Lions defense and Aaron Glenn wants. He wants to inflict pain. And that's a big boy to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jerzon Newton a lot. I'm gonna say Jackson Powers Johnson. I'm gonna be consistent with myself. I gotta be even though you almost got me, Baltimore. I'm gonna be consistent with myself because I do believe that keeping this offensive line at an elite level should be their number 1 concern. So therefore, if you're giving me an elite offensive lineman prospect, I'll lean Jackson Powers Johnson. But man,
I don't hate it.
To me, that's a coin flip. That's like a coin flip. Oh, Jerzon, we'll go Jerzon. Like you don't lose, I don't think, with that one.
I want to throw the scenario out there too, real quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for them to get Jackson Powers Johnson. I think what I asked Jeremy about Goff taking less and one of these guys getting I think that actually happens. And then I think like in the second round, Jeff, I showed you him today, Cooper Beebe, man. I put him in our group chat.
I like Cooper Beebe.
I saw a 2-minute highlight film of him, and when I told Jeff was like, "Why does offensive lineman have it on like a highlight film? How's that possible?" Cooper Beebe does. That man. Like there were literally pass protections to where there was like a highlight of him pancaking like 2 or 3 different guys in one pass protection. Like it's unbelievable. Like that dude is you can get him at 61 if you want. Probably like there's a chance you can get him at 61. Like so, like dude, I don't hate it.
We kind of talked about it before. I think it was when we were talking about Chris Jenkins earlier, Booner. But imagine if you're at 29, do you want to take one player at 29, or do you want to trade back and you take a Cooper Beebe and Chris Jenkins? And in my point, even when we talk about the Jackson Powers Johnsons and the Jerzon Newton, I would almost rather be in the Chris Jenkins and Cooper Beebe area. And we kind of talked about that yesterday. But those are 2 players that
trade back, add a third player.
Holes. Yeah,
trade back, you add a third player. You can get Braylon Trice, you can get Chris Jenkins, and you can get.
That's the thing I'm struggling with, guys. That's the thing I'm struggling with, guys, and I want that's why I want your guys' thoughts on this whole thing, because like I can't figure it out, and no one can. That's why I brought up to Jeremy. It's like cracking a safe that you just can't open. It's an impossible safe to open with Brad Holmes. You have like a Darius Robinson, a Jackson Powers Johnson. You have like these options in the first round, and then you also have like a Braylon Trice, a Cooper Bebe, like guys that are second round guys that you could get a good football play. Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle. Like it's like, I don't know. I'm curious which way Brad goes. Does he feel like a Chris Jones in the second is more value than a Brandon Fisk at 29? I don't know. Like that's where I'm curious. There's
Brandon Fisk going to go in the first round? Because every mock draft I see, I don't even know if I see him in the first 2 rounds.
I think he'll be a second round.
Second or third.
Maybe today put him up to a second round, but from the mocks that I've seen, because as soon as I saw him testing just out crazy, like I know who he is obviously, but I was like, all right, where's he going in these drafts? And every single mock draft I looked at, like he wasn't even in the first 2 rounds in most of them, like CBS and ESPN, like he wasn't in those. So like that's where I was like, maybe today he just put himself into that second round, but like maybe you can get him with the 3rd round pick, and maybe that's like a thing that he actually. But if at this point, after what he did today, he's probably going to move up a little. I'm pretty sure though, Brad 4 top 100 picks, like he loves to add second rounds and he loves to move up and he loves to move back. Like he has his guys and they're available and they're dropping.
Robin's Nest, who do you want to have the 5th year option? It's that simple. Like it kind of to that point too. Like maybe if a best player available and you're looking at the players and a Keon Coleman's there, you're like, you know what?
Wide receiver, offensive line.
Option on, you get what I'm saying? Like
I'd rather have a 5th year option on wide receiver, offensive line over a defensive lineman, and that's just me.
I agree.
And maybe I'm off on that, but just like those,
no, I agree.
Dude, that's where I'm at with it. At 29, or if you move up, like that's maybe the move up thing for the kid from Illinois. It's like, would you rather have Jackson Powers Johnson with the 5th year option or him?
Keon Coleman though, Lucas, come on.
I like because Jeremy brought it up. You don't know what's going to happen with Jameson Williams in 2 years, and we're not writing him off, but that's just the plain and simple case. In fact, of the matter.
Yeah,
I mean, Jameson Williams, great talent, would love it, but I don't think he's lived up to that number 12 overall pick. But that's not saying he's a bad player. But then you look, it's like, okay, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are right around him, the same draft area. And production-wise, he hasn't lived up to that. So is there a time where it's like, we love Jamo, but again, you always want to improve. So is there a way that in 2 or 3 years, when Jamo's contract's up, are we able to move off him and easily replace him? So it's definitely a good point.
Yeah, because like you said, for Jamo, which we'll get to in a little bit here, Dan Campbell believes he can be a full-time starter, but like, I don't know. I mean, best player available. There's a dude over in Florida State, 6'4". That's a man right there. That's a man amongst boys right there. Ubaldo says, just ask yourself, Powers keeps us elite on O-line, or does adding Jerzon make us our D-line elite? I mean,
I think both can be true. Both can be true.
Okay. I think both can be true. I think this is all right. I think I can end this debate here. Powers Johnson, you're like you can't find. All right, like just think about this when it comes to offensive line and defensive line, especially like we're talking about Chris Jenkins and all these guys. You can get him in the 2nd or 3rd, right? Like a guy like him, like a Fisk, and like there's these guys. Like it's a very, very deep defensive line class, in my opinion. Especially what we saw today. If you get Powers Johnson, you get him for a 5th year option, you're keeping that offensive line that much elite and potentially going to be the number 1 offensive line for years to come. And you can still get a Chris Jenkins or a guy to make your defensive line that much better. But if you flop it around, you can get a guy, the defensive line, the kid from Illinois at 20-something and get the 5th year, and it might make your defensive line elite. But you're not going to get a guy, an offensive lineman in the 2nd, 3rd round that's going to keep your offensive line that good. Like, you might have to wait. You might have to wait a year. May have to wait 2 years. But like the you know what I'm saying? The give or take with it. It's like
it's whatever your flavor is, and you can't whichever one the other person chooses. You can't be mad at it because at the same time they both make sense. But Booner, I do have to agree with you. At the end of the day, if you're having Jared Goff as your quarterback, offensive line I think trumps defensive line just slightly because I think both sides you got to control the line of scrimmage, but I think it's more essential for the offense.
Do you have, would you have to pay like a free offensive lineman more than like a defensive tackle free agent? Like what's the market?
It's weird because if you have a guard, most of the time defensive tackle is going to get more money every time.
Yep.
But center, like guard, just like the running back, linebacker, safety kind of. You're getting good money, but unless you're like an elite guard, you're not going to be getting high money.
Well,
You got to be like a Zach Martin.
That's why I was like, Jackson Powers Johnson's probably like an elite guard, or he will be elite
/ center.
Yeah. So in my head, it's just like, what would be harder to find in free agency and pay less money? In my head, it's like, if you get a guard like that who is going to be that good, maybe.
And he's playing. He could play center if Frank goes down. That's invaluable. Yeah. That's invaluable. You know who else is invaluable is our Booner here on the program. We rely on him for all our football knowledge. And today we're doing another Booner breakdown. Lucas, you were texting the group chat today, and I wasn't familiar with their game. I didn't know. I didn't watch Texas A&M football. I wasn't the Aggies. I wasn't locked in as much as. Listen, who do you got for today? Who do you got for the people?
Listen, and I got a hot take with this one, but I don't care. It's one of those things where you can hate me for it, but it's just locked in my head. Edgerrin Cooper, the off-ball linebacker from Texas A&M. And I was watching some film, listening to some highlights, and, just that voice, the voice of just the football gods. Louis Riddick, he was commentating on a game.
Wait, where's your tie?
Oh, good point.
See, I got you. Without it. Hey, Bonjay, holding you accountable.
A tie with the sweatshirt today is a whole different level.
That's different.
Put the hood up with the tie. Let's get it all going here.
Okay.
The point is, Louis Riddick, the voice of reason of all of football, and you can go back and you can quote it. The best linebacker in all of college football. This man reminds me of a Devin White. I will say Devin White was better in pass coverage, but Edgerrin Cooper this year, people, had 8 sacks. 8 sacks in the SEC. He's the most ideal QB spy in this draft. We talk about, especially me, needing a safety. If you take this guy who just ran a 4.52, I believe, at the combine today, and when you watch it, you're like, holy shit. This guy is just a mauler. He defines what it means to be an off-the-ball linebacker. He's a 1980s linebacker that fits into the 2024 scheme. I think he's going to be a 2nd to 3rd round pick just because he is off the ball. But let me tell you, this is my hot take. And I can get heat from this in the chat. I do not care. You give me Edgerrin Cooper, Derek Barnes, pack your bags. You give me Edgerrin Cooper, Malcolm Rodriguez, how's the curb? You give me Edgerrin Cooper, Alex Anzalone, your days are numbered. Germ, you're fine. You're staying. But you give me Edgerrin Cooper and Jack Campbell as a linebacking core going into the future, I'm telling you, boys, it's going to be nasty. He reminds me of Jack a little bit, too, just because they're massive human beings that just hurt people. When you watch Edgerrin Cooper play football, you're just like, this dude hurts people. It's poetry in motion at the linebacker position. I will say that. I was watching this film, boys, and I was just like, I was ready to run through a wall.
Well, when you sent me the tape, I peeped it. And I go, this guy, what you just said, he likes to hurt people. I'm like, this guy is a menace. This guy's an absolute menace.
I think I can't remember the commentator's name, but he always does all the SEC games. And Edgerrin Cooper, just like a fucking heat-sinking missile, man, against Tennessee. Tackle for loss, and they're like, I don't think anybody was going to stop Edgerrin Cooper. Anyone in the SEC is going to let Edgerrin Cooper do whatever he wants. He's he's just a menace. You can't stop him. He's too big. He's too athletic. Sideline to sideline. You want to talk about having Jordan Love in this division, potentially Caleb Williams. You need a guy in the playoffs that drop your guys back, play man, zone coverage, whatever you want to do. But now they're going to extend the pocket and they're going to make plays. That's where they become lethal. That's a guy who just tracks him down right now, multiple times against Jalen Monroe. He's just sitting in the A gap. Jalen Monroe peels outside the tackle, and he's right there, and he's hurting him.
Well, guess who else he's hurting? The only thing I got to say about Cooper, and I'll say this: only thing he's hurting is his team's pass defense. He allowed 14.
He's not like that in the past. He's not terrible.
14 receptions on 16 targets. That wasn't great, but to your point, run defense, pass rush, menace. That's what he does. He's a menace. But like you said, he'd probably be a second round selection. He'll probably be first? Would that be the first linebacker off the board?
This year, God, I'm trying to think of other ones.
There's another. What's his name? The Alabama kid. I think isn't the Alabama linebacker? Is there a linebacker?
Yeah, he's like an outside linebacker / I mean, he's a great pass rusher, Dallas Turner. If that's who you're,
Lucas, you sold me on the player.
He's not even like a need for this team, man. I just want him in Detroit.
When the text
I just want him
today, I watched the film and I did myself a favor. I think everyone should do this. Just go with Lucas for a second, watch the film, and just take out of your mind that we're talking about the Detroit Lions. Like, just think like you're building your own NFL team and you don't need any, like, you need every player. Then you'll be like, oh yeah, he's a Dallas Turner, by the way. Shout out Jared. He put it in there. I'm at the side though, to where it's like it's the same. Like, I don't know. He's a great player, but it's like, do we need him? Like, we literally just used a first-round draft pick at 18 on literally the same exact player you just described. But obviously, he might be a little bit. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? Like, it's this, like Jack Campbell and him literally are like, the player comp is literally the same. Edgerrin might actually be better. Who knows? But like,
no, he's not.
You just used a first-round draft pick on Jack Campbell, and it's like the same guy.
Well, I hear you. But here's my counter, Booner. Here's my counter.
He might be better in coverage, but like, it seems like that's what Jack ended up playing. Where
this is my counter is simple.
And you used the first round draft pick. Like, there's no way.
I don't care. Give me Edgerrin Cooper on the Detroit Lions. I don't care.
I'm being a man of the people here, and I'm just
Fred
throwing out like realistic.
I know, but I'm being like, it's not but a third round pick. And Jeremy even kind of talked about it earlier.
Second, probably.
What?
I think he would go in the second round. Edgerrin,
I don't know, because he's off the ball and he's not good in coverage, and that's where it's kind of like where it's like,
that really help our team there.
Well, my point being is, when you have a guy like Alex Anzalone, so he's not going to pass coverage, develop behind Alex Anzalone, and Alex Anzalone, I think, has 2 more years in his contract. So now when Alex Anzalone's off, you have Jack Campbell entering his prime, and hopefully he can turn into just the mauler that we all think he's going to. There's your Fred Warner. Okay, obviously I don't think he's going to be Fred Warner, but that's your archetype. And now you got this hard-hitting, crazy motherfucker sitting behind him that just goes out there and kills people. That's Dre Greenlaw for the San Francisco 49ers. If the Detroit Lions can get that with Aiden Hutchinson in front, with the defensive end in front, with the Lee McNeil, with the safety and Brian Branch behind, bro, I'm telling you, that is how you just kill teams at all 3 levels of the field, because he's flying around there at 4.55, 4.52, whatever it was.
Well, he did say too, for Derek Barnes. You said Derek Barnes, which Derek Barnes can't stop a Park Carr in coverage. I know he had a pick against Baker, but let's be real here. Like,
so let's just replace him with another guy who can't play in coverage.
I mean, at least this guy
works out. Hey, how about that?
At least
this guy's sacking Dak in the end zone for a safety. Instead of a 98-yard bomb to CD Lamb.
I love I don't know the word I'm looking for, like the passion for Edgerrin Cooper. But it's not going to happen. If it happens, I mean, we can make a bet maybe, but I don't know.
No, we just have to just celebrate for a segment and just acknowledge how the Lions now have the next Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. That's all we have.
I'm all in on your passion. Put that passion towards my guy T'Vondre Sweat. How about that?
Hey, we talked about Sweat. I love T'Vondre Sweat. He's just a big boy. 366 is a lot of man to be moving on a football field for a consistent amount of time.
Well, I'll tell you someone that doesn't need it's not a lot of weight to move around. It's Jameson Williams, but he can fly, man. This guy can fly, and I know we've talked about his expectations. If you ask Spiro, he would say one of you guys said 1,400. That is not true. We did not know 1,400.
Shout out Spiro, too, by the way.
You're listening, Spiro. You got the facts now. No one's. We went through the evidence.
No one said 1,400.
The jury has spoken. No one said 1,400. But I will say this: Dan Campbell has a lot of confidence in what he can be this upcoming season. Take a look at what he said at the combine.
This
is from he's right in the flesh, man. Like Colton Pouncey.
This is definitely an Adam Burner. That's an Adam Burner
for sure. I saw that. I had to put it up. I did I had to.
No way. No there. Okay. All right. We'll get to Colton Pouncey's video right here. Here's Dan Campbell and Jameson Williams.
And when he was able to come back off, when we got him, week 4 of the season after he had the suspension, and all we asked of him was growth. Just get better, just get a little bit better, and just become one of the guys, somebody that we can rely on in this offense just do your job. And that's exactly what he did. And you can see by the end of the year, we really felt like he started to come into his own. And he is going to push to be a full-time starter now. And that's what we're looking for. And we said it before, everybody grows at a different rate. And maybe it's taken him a little bit longer, but he is developing and he's growing, and he is certainly one of the team. The kids come on. So we got high hopes for him. We see him continuing to grow as long as he gets back and puts the work in like we believe he will, because he's shown that. He's only going to get better and better and better.
Yeah, guys. I mean, based on kind of Dan Campbell's comments. Also, fun fact here: Alabama cornerback Terrion Arnold recently said, this is per Ben Raven, who also does some work there for MLive, I believe, for the Lions, and he tweeted out, Alabama cornerback Terrion Arnold said Jamison Williams helped him prepare for the next level. Jamo showed up from Ohio State, beat him a couple times downfield. Then Arnold said once he started hanging with him, he could hang with anybody. That's what he said. He said, once I can hang with Jamo, I can hang with anybody.
That confidence.
So, yeah, absolutely. And there's that. But the question I have for today isn't about Jamo and a breakout season, because we already had that conversation. And I don't think we'll talk more about it closer to the season. The statement I have, and I want you guys' thoughts on Jamo, the growth there, and what his ceiling can be. Because if I'm being real with you, I like Jamo a lot. I've defended Jamo. Shout out to Stan Flannel. Me and him used to go at it all the time about Jamo. You included, Lucas, when we were on the show together. We would defend. We would defend Jamo. But I'll say this, guys. I don't think Jamo will ever reach star potential with the Lions. I just don't. Because given, not saying he can't be productive in his own way, right? Like double his production.
You're saying like star production?
Yeah, like he'll never be Amon-Ra St. Brown with this offense. He'll never be.
Pro Bowl, all pro player.
Yeah, he'll never be. Nope. I don't think so. Now, doesn't mean he can't contribute, doesn't mean he can't provide something to your offense. Provide something as in him being a deep threat, which changes how defenses play you, changes how secondaries play you. He can do that. I just don't know if in Detroit he'll ever become. I mean, the fact that, imagine that, we're already talking about Keon Coleman. Like, not saying that, he'll come in and snag his job.
Fair, too.
And it's fair. Keon's a beast, and he's 6'4". He brings something different. But I don't think he'll ever turn into a star/superstar here, guys. I just don't. I think next year a breakout season from Jamo would be doubling his production, which would be roughly 600 yards, 700 yards. Maybe it can be like a wide receiver 3, provide kind of a gadget player. I know it sounds disrespectful, but it's true. You saw in the NFC Championship game, like Andrew Jones brought up, kind of the explosiveness. We know what Jamo is, but I stand on that, guys. I just don't know if he'll ever reach it here with this offense, with the mouth they have to.
I think too, like this year, I could be wrong with this. Like, I just feel like this season, and to your point, Jeff, like he's going to double his production. You're gonna like find out like what he's about this season. Like, this is the first year I think of his career since like that year at Alabama he had before he got hurt, to where like he's going to have a full season of training, and without the suspension and without the injury and without like, this is like a full off season for him with the team without having to leave after week 1 or before week 1. Like, he's going to get into things here, and you're going to find out a lot, at least. And basically what Dan said, it's like, he's going to step into that role as a starter, and he's going to be a guy that you're going to rely on. And you're going to find out quick if Jamo is going to be that guy or not. And maybe he does just do what you said, and he doubles his production, and he gets 600, 700 yards and in some 100 and 200 rushing yards and some touchdowns. And maybe he just does that. But there is that chance to where he does have that ceiling. And we've talked about the ceiling all the time. Like, he has a ceiling to where there is a chance that he goes out there and he can put numbers up. And I know with all the mouths you have to feed and everything, that there's only one football. Like, I get that, but like, he does have that potential to be a star. I don't think you would disagree with that, Jeff, but he does have that ceiling and that potential. Does he do it? You're going to find out this year, because this is like to me, it's like a make or break year for Jamo in Detroit. Like, what is he going to do with that? And if he does do the 600-700, then I'm fine with that, because you just need a wide receiver 2 to do that. But you're going to find out whether or not he's going to be a star or not this year, in my opinion, because it's year 3 now, and he's been in this like Dan said, like they let him develop like at his own pace, which is awesome. Like, we talk about quarterback, like that's what you want. Now, can he produce? Like, he's no longer a rookie. He's no longer going through any suspension. Like, he is in. Now, go out there and produce. Can you do it? I hope he can, but I would be happy with the 600-700, to be honest.
You guys have you fine? My Wi-Fi was kind of weakened.
Am I good? I think you're back.
Cool.
I think you're
okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I was like, God damn it! If you ever hear me like just like cussing or something, you're like, what the? It's because my Wi-Fi is acting up. Well, we'll get that fixed. But as far as Jamo goes, I agree with you, Jeff, that that's definitely a possibility, and that's kind of what my guts tell me. But then I start thinking, I look around the league, and wide receiver duo that I think really can, especially I think we're taking for granted that we all are just expecting a dramatic jump from Sam Laporta next year. And I think it's very realistic that he can stay around the same. So now take into account Jamo, obviously suspension, dealt with an injury as well. And I think naturally he's going to get better. Brad Holmes always talks about year 3 is where they really want to see where these draft picks can turn out to be. Because like Dan just said, the development with every player is going to be different. I look at A.J. Brown, I look at Devontae Smith, and not the players that they are, but the production, because you even look at Dallas Goedert. You look at that offensive line. They always have a good running game. I don't see a reason, and maybe not exactly Devontae Smith type numbers, but if there's an injury to this offense for a season, why Jameson Williams can't be a Devontae Smith type of player, another Alabama wide receiver, by the way. But he has every potential to be an 900-yard wide receiver. And if there's no injuries or anything like that, it'll be 700 yards. But then we go back to the NFC Championship game against New Orleans Saints, where he's in the run game and he's giving you those 200-300 yards. So I don't think production he's ever going to be a star-wise, but there's going to be a couple of seasons where he's like, damn, Jameson Williams is one of the more underrated players in football, and it's because he's not getting recognized because there's Jahmyr Gibbs, there's Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he's definitely going to be a contributor. I think year 3 this year is a big year for Jamo. I think he does take another step, not a 1,000-yard receiving step, but I think there's a way total yardage-wise he kind of starts creeping in on that.
Yeah, and real quick, we got Michael Gentry joining the program, so I'll welcome him in a second here. But I just want to say this before we welcome in Gentry, that I believe in his potential. My point was, and Alan brought this up, and I know Booner, you kind of got you guys both kind of got where I was coming from with my statement, because I have been a huge Jamo supporter, but I don't have to state that because it's on my. I've said it 1,000 times. What I can state though is this, and Alan beat me to it here. Jamo is more of a deep threat, a deep star threat, and you're not going to see a lot of deep balls from Goff. That's why he'll never reach his ceiling. Now we've seen Goff use DJ Chark like that. And I know we brought that up a lot. I just think with the mouths you have to feed, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown got to get his 1,500. Even Laporta, let's say he gets his, 8 to 1,000.
He's going to be around 1,000 every year.
Yeah, close to it. We're already at 2,500. Then you sprinkle in, 500 for Gibbs, who I think he should be
I think 500
at the minimum. I mean, he should be more involved in the passing game.
I think he should. My only concern is I think he has to develop a lot more till he reaches that. He was very inconsistent catching the ball this year.
Absolutely. So assuming he does improve on that, but they welcome back Josh Reynolds. He's going to get his 600. So now we're at 30-something hundred. And then you're talking about Jamo. Do you believe he can be a 1,000-yard receiver with 17 games? Maybe. I would lean on the side of no. In Detroit, with how this offense is set up, with everybody and how the offense runs, they love to run the football. That comes first. I don't know. I don't know if Jamo. It's not like Goff's going to feed him to where he gets, 6 to 10 targets a game. I don't believe that.
Can we break that number down like a little bit more there? I just want to hear what that number, the number you got again real quick. Because like if Jamo was to get 1,000, say he does, that means like a guy like I know you said Josh Reynolds will get his 600 again. If Jamo's supposed to, and so that's my point right there, Lucas. It's like if Jamo is supposed to kind of have that year and double his production, Josh Reynolds won't go out there and get another 600-700. That won't happen. Like if Jeff, not even Jamo getting 1,000. If Jamo is just going to double his production from last year and get to 600, 700, Josh Reynolds, like I don't see him going out there and getting another 600-700 as well. And same like a Khalif Raymond had 500. Does he get that if Jamo does that? Like, do you see what I'm saying here? And like Jared Goff threw for 4,600 yards, I believe. Was it 4,600? 4,500. About 4,500 yards. So like we can break this down really like let's just do 4,500 here. Like 4,500. I'll start with that. Take away 1,500 for St. Brown, right? Like let's just off the rip, take away 1,000 for Jamo. Let's just say he does hit that 1,000. Then you have 2,000 more yards there. That all right? Who gets those? And like Josh Reynolds, let's just say he 500, which to me it would still be a lot. Like Khalif Raymond, let's say he gets 500, which is more than he had this year. You're still sitting there with 1,000 yards that you have to put in between Jameer Gibbs and
the
David
others.
Montgomery and Brock Wright and these random guys, which I don't see how that's that crazy, to be honest. Like, I don't see how it's that crazy. I'm not saying he's going to get 1,000 again. I'm more on the side of you, like 600-700, and that's perfectly fine with me. But I don't see it's like a thing to where it's like, oh, no, he can't do it because there's only a certain amount of yards that can go around. Like, I just broke that down for you for the top 5 wide receivers, and there's still 1,000 yards remaining.
And I know it sounds
That's
crazy.
a lot. 4,600 yards is a lot.
We'll bring in let's bring in Gentry here because I would love to get his thought.
He's a Jamo supporter.
I think we're just like looking at this like Jared Goff only throws for 3,000 yards. Like, he threw for 4,600 this year.
Well, but let's hear what Jeff has to say because I'm interested.
Well,
hey, Gentry.
There he is. That sexy son of a bitch. Look at him.
Can we just put a request in for the combine? Oh, let's go.
He's making moves while I wasn't here, just so you know. I wasn't missing.
It was a business trip. You can write that off for the taxes. That was a business trip.
Yep,
that's facts.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're talking Jamo.
Yeah, well, hear me out, Gentry. I want your reaction to this. So we're talking about Jamo. I said I don't think he'll ever reach his full potential here with the Lions because of the offense, because of the mouse they have to feed. Doesn't mean he can't be productive, but to what extent, right? If you want to go, and I'll ask you guys, do you believe, and this will answer my question, do you think Jamo can get 1,000 yards or close to?
I think with all the weapons they have, I don't think so. Maybe if some guys go down and then he gets involved more, and kind of takes some reps away from someone else, then maybe. Okay. But I don't think so. You got Amon-Ra, you got Sam Laporta, you maybe have Josh Reynolds, you have Jameer Gibbs on the receiving end. So there's just a lot of mouths to feed. So I'm not too sure if he'll peak 1,000. I mean, I hope he does. I love Jamo, but.
So and I'll go around and give me a yes or a no. Booner, Lucas. So Gentry gave his thoughts. He doesn't think he'll reach 1,000. What do you guys think? That'll tie into what
Can we clarify this real quick? Are we talking strictly receiving yards, not total yards? We're talking strictly receiving yards.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. No. And what do you think, Lucas?
No.
Do you think Jamo has potential to be a 1,000-yard receiver
in this offense or in the NFL?
In the NFL,
absolutely.
Yes.
I'll say this. I'm going to say no. That I don't think he does.
Point.
No, Jeff.
He's not going to reach his potential. You know what I mean? Not for you guys. I know you guys agree, but that's my point. Like because Booner was bringing up the passing yards. Booner, if he gets 1,000, because you were mentioning there's 2,000 left. Like, I think he'll get 600 of those. That's where I'm at. If you want to go 1,000, they would be the 6th team in NFL history to have 3,000.
The problem. So real quick, Booner, just because it'll be short and it's probably going to lead into exactly what you're saying. The problem that I have with just saying 600 is if Jamo was playing how he did at the end of the year through the amount of games that he actually started this year, or like at least like the first 3 games, Jamo was a non-factor. Like they hardly threw him the ball. We were on the morning show freaking out of get this guy
with us
a chance, throw him something besides a. Yeah, am I back?
Yes. Well, we can hear you. I think you're it looks like you just heard some shocking news.
Lucas is like, it's like in.
Oh, you're good.
You're good. It's like
you're
in the
good,
hospital, like the beep beep beep.
No, this is. I'm freaking out right now. I'm breathing. I'm trying.
You're
to
good now,
down.
Lucas.
Could you guys hear what I was? Where did I get cut off?
Yes. No, we heard everything. We heard it all.
Oh, we heard. Okay. Well, yes, that's my spiel. I was saying I just think Jamo this year he could have had more production in itself, where he could have got 600 yards this year.
Yep. And that's where I'm at, Boone.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't think he gets 1,000, but what I do think is it's not like out of this realm for him to get 1,000 and hit it, and like spreading the numbers around. When I just broke these numbers down, like it and I get that, but again, Jeff, if it happens, one of these guys might not get it,
bro.
But again, Jeff, if I don't know what you're saying right now.
It is not out of this realm.
I don't think so. Like, did Sam Laporta get 1,000 yards this year?
I promise.
No, I'm just asking. Like, did he get 1,000 yards this year?
If next year, he will get 1,000. Yeah.
But Jeff, there's a chance Sam Laporta goes into next year, does the same thing he did this year, and gets 900. And a guy like I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying like you're saying like it's impossible. Not impossible. Like if Jamo got it this year, you still didn't have 3 guys with 1,000 receiving yards. And there's a chance Sam Laporta goes into next year and does the same thing and gets 900. And what if Jamo does go off? If he does, like Lucas's point, if he does what he did to end the year, there's a chance. But I don't. Again, I'm gonna step back here because I don't think he does it. I just don't think it's out of the realm of his career in Detroit.
I was gonna say because there's a chance Jared Goff wins MVP. You know what I mean?
I feel like there is. We've had this argument. We've had this argument before. We can get into this.
And I love Jamo, Mike. I love Jamo. Like my point is, and I've been a big Jamo defender, but again, I don't have to state that. But I will say I just don't think he'll live up to his full potential with this offense. I think he'll be a valuable piece.
I still think there's ways to live.
I don't think it means 1,000.
I still think there's ways to get his full potential and not get 1,000 yards. I think it's more about ways Ben Johnson can get him involved and hit him on routes and have him on plays that really bring out his strengths and his speed. If he gets 1,000 yards, oh well, but it's really just more bringing him out in the offense and bringing plays that cater to his abilities. That's my thing. I mean, you don't need 1,000 yards for him. You need him to make those big plays when he has the ball in his hand. And the most important thing is getting the ball in his hands in situations that make sense. So that's my more the.
I think you nailed it. I think that's and then we all agree there. I think we all agree with Mike.
Gentry.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Right, it's not about the number; it's about how he's utilized and what his effect is on the football game, which I think will have a big effect on it. I think when people throw around 1,000, they don't really, like you think about it. I do believe, and I'd love to revisit this Boone with Sam Laporta. I think if healthy, he's going to be 1,000-yard receiver. Maybe nothing's guaranteed, but if I had to pick one, I'm leaning Laporta between him and Jamo. If I had to pick one.
100%. You just hit 800 yards. You're acting like you're really going out on a limb saying that. Like
no, I'm just saying because that's 2,000, right? Amon-Ra, if healthy, guaranteed 1,000.
Yeah.
So now you got.
I agree. No, I agree. I think we're on the same page. The only thing I'm saying is I think it's like you're like basically guaranteeing that he will never have 1,000 yards as the Lion wide receiver. I don't know if I had to put my mortgage on that or like my life savings on that, I'm not going to do that. I'm not that confident. Or if you are, we can make like a $500 bet right now. At some point in his career.
I think Jamo has 1,000+ yard, but he has a ton of potential.
That's where I'm at with it. His ceiling is very high.
Yes, we all agree. I just don't know if he'll get the target/touches. Maybe in the run game, maybe he gets them both. I don't know. I don't. Because I think Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, you got to feed those guys. And you're going to feed Jamo, but I don't know to that extent.
That just irks me, and I saw it earlier, but I just remembered it, is this comment right here. Because remember, I always said, I don't think he's going to put up Devontae Smith-type production, but I said, if you look around the league and you look at wide receivers, you could say Jamison Williams is one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league. And that is completely true, and people are acting like this that just blow my mind. Because think about Jamison Williams, and how you could say he was very much overrated at the beginning of his career. And that will forever haunt him. But when you even look at what he did for the playoff run at the end of the year for the Lions, he was incredibly underrated. People are still saying things like that. I love you, Adam, but to say that Jamison Williams is underrated, we just said that he has 1,000-yard potential. And I think Adam would say the same thing. And that he's probably never going to get that 1,000 yards, but he's still going to contribute and do everything this team asks him to do. Whether it's in the run game, the pass game, you name it. He's going to do that. That is underrated. So people to say that Jamison Williams will never be underrated I think that's exactly where he's going to fit into. Just that guy that he's a number 2, but damn well somewhere else he can be a number 1 if he really wanted to.
I want to transition to this before we go to Mailbag. It's something that I was sent, and it is a guy that I'm very fond of, Caleb Williams. And it seems like his dad just keeps saying some pretty dumb things. I don't know why.
Brutal, man.
I believe he's the one that suggested he take ownership of the team that drafts him. There's a whole thing. It's kind of LeVar Ball-ish, a little bit LeVar Ball-ish, which, hey, I don't have a problem with you hyping your son up. I don't hate that. I'll probably be like that as a dad too. But come on. I mean, look at this. This is ML football. Breaking. Carl Williams wanted his son Caleb to not have to sign a rookie contract. Getting around the CBA, allowing Caleb to sign a record-breaking deal per Outkick. Previously, Carl wanted Caleb to get part ownership of the team who drafted him, which is not allowed. So he wanted this man to get Mahomes money as a rookie. I mean, God, let me change that.
Whoa.
Come on, man.
Hey, give me some. Okay. I don't mind you pushing for your son, right? I don't mind it. He seems like obviously it did well as a father. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of who this man is, but hey, his son's going to be pretty successful. But come on. Can I break the rules?
That's a reach.
I want to throw this out there. I am completely out on Caleb Williams. I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I just mean like I don't care. Like I don't care.
Go to war.
I don't care for the guy. I don't care for him anymore. Like, yeah, he might be a good player. Cool. This dude hasn't played a snap in the NFL and is asking for ownership. He's asking for a new like contract. He's trying to change the lanes. Dude, you haven't played a snap in the NFL yet. You didn't just go win back-to-back Heismans or anything. You didn't just go, you haven't won a national champ. You didn't win anything. Like, yeah, you put numbers up and you want to hide. Like, he's acting like his one Heisman trophy was the best season of all time in college football history, and it makes him the best prospect ever. Like, dude, Joe Burrow had better college career than you. Like, there's dudes that have had better college careers than you. What are we acting like you are like God and like you're gonna change everything in the NFL and you are the next already Patrick Mahomes, like Tom Brady? Like, no, dude, what are we doing?
Although I do agree.
Am I the only one out on this guy?
No, I agree with what you're saying that he hasn't done anything and he hasn't won yet. But I'm not like throwing the towel on him because of some stuff that his dad says. Like if he's coming out and saying this stuff, then or if he's okaying, like he knows that this stuff's about to be said, then it's a little crazy. But like he's a good player, and I'm not gonna just
playing wise, I'm okay. I'm just saying, Booner, like I can't stand these headlines.
Yeah,
it is off my timeline.
Scream it down.
Booner, I am with you to a certain extent, because this is why I've talked about maturity with Caleb Williams and him going to the Bears is why it might be his ultimate downfall, because with this maturity, this man's confidence is sky high. And he won how much at USC? I believe 6 games this year. And I'm not denying the talent, because that's where I go where it's like, even with the personality, I'm still drafting him number 1 because I'm not going to be the GM that didn't draft Caleb Williams, because if he pans out, you just lost your job. But when you talk about Caleb Williams as far as after the draft, as what he can be in the NFL, maturity with quarterback is a huge thing, because he's the leader of the team. When shit goes wrong in the offense, they're all going to go, Caleb, what are you going to do? And if you're looking at a guy with colored fingernails that's looking around and be like, I'm just here. I want a different contract. I'm better than you guys already. That affects the locker room. And you can say his skill is there, but the maturity process and him facing issues and trying to overcome them, that's the part where I can see Caleb Williams kind of falling from that number 1 pick, like echelon.
And I want to throw this out there too. I know people are like ETN, where the loss is on him or the defense. Dude, if you're as good as they're making you out to be right now, dude, you guys lost 5 of the last 6 football games he's played. He's lost. The year before, the 2 biggest games to end the season, they lost. They like lost to Tulane. Like, yes, okay, cool. You're putting up big numbers. Like, I'm with you. I'll take the number 1 overall too as well. But I'm just over these headlines. I hope we see him tomorrow.
I hope we see him.
Booner's gonna call out Caleb Williams, call him a pussy.
Yeah.
A diva.
Yeah. You see his dad, Booner. What are you gonna say?
I don't know, but I'm just gonna be like, dude, stop.
For him.
Okay,
like it was like Lonzo Ball was gonna be the next Michael Jordan, and because his dad hyped him up so much. Shout out LeVar too.
I just did it. We did a segment yesterday. I went through 17 teams. I would take Caleb Williams over their current 17.
I agreed with you too.
That's over half the league. Now, do I have a crystal ball I can look into? And is he going to be the best quarterback ever to exist? No, I don't have that. So we don't know. Based on what I've seen and based on the reports I've read, based on his leadership, I've read good things about his leadership. There was an NFL scout that described his leadership as natural. He has natural leadership abilities. So I don't know anything about the locker room, right? I do know these comments are annoying, Boone. I will agree with you. I think his father, like this stuff is annoying. I get that. But like you can't. That's what happened to me with LeVar at one point for LaMelo. Like LeVar got so annoying to where I'm like, dude, like enough. So but then I had to realize, like, wait. His son can actually play. Like, who cares what the dad says? Like, this dude can play. And I think that's going to be the same thing with Caleb. Like, yes, dad's annoying, but like, I mean, you're not drafting his dad, are you? You're drafting
I get he can. I am on the side to where he can play. He's probably going to be really good in the NFL. I think that's fine. It's just what set me off is you're asking for an ownership of the team without playing a snap, and on top of that, you're asking to get away from a rookie deal. Like that's like, to me, it's just like you're already being like a diva trying to go get like a ownership stake when you haven't even played a snap yet. Like, do you know how many players were made out to be the best of their generation and then went in and ended up being bust? Like, what team, like, who do you think you are for you to be like, I'm not him, like I'm him, I'm not going to be the butt? Go out there and then prove it, and then ask for ownership stake.
Can we take
Patrick Mahomes isn't
those mom's arms crying after the games?
Oh my gosh!
I'm just not doing that, dude.
Not a leader of men, Jeff. He's not a leader of men.
Say it. Is he gonna be a bust? Say it.
He's a bust. He's a Ryan Leaf. He's a Ryan Leaf.
Put your nuts on the table and say it right now.
How I would say it is, I think he's the number 1 overall pick. But how people are acting like he is the lock number 1 overall pick of the last decade, I think it's a little extreme. If that makes sense.
Oh,
like people are acting like number 1, lock it up.
Bit.
Like he's the best number 1 quarterback taken in the last couple of years. I can see where you're coming from, but I just don't think there's the case. There's a whole nother side of football that's up here as far as like being able to be that guy to win games, and that's where I got to see it.
I love ETN, but it's called passion. Like, listen, no, it's called like selfish. Like you don't even care about playing football. You just want ownership and you want money.
No, he's talking about crying with the team.
Oh, okay. I thought he was talking about.
I was just trolling with that comment, but
yeah, he's talking about crying.
Like
I thought it was that, and I was like, no, that man's just he just wants money. He doesn't even want to play football. I bet.
I was gonna say because if Panay cried, or Jared cried, we'd be like, oh, look at him. You just want to pinch his little cheeks. That's what we'd say about Jared Goff. I already know it. I already know.
Not me. It's not my quarterback crying up in the stand.
No, I'm kidding. Uper Lights, Eric says, are any of you guys going to the combine in Indy this weekend? Yes, we're actually leaving tomorrow morning, so we'll be there in the afternoon. We'll be hanging out in Indy Friday to Saturday as well, and then we're gonna have some fun there, man. We got some merch courtesy of Mike. Mike took care of the boys. That's why he was gone.
Let him see again. Let him see.
Yeah,
again,
hold on. Ooh! Hey, in this
quarter zip, and I believe there's hoodies too, right?
Yeah, I got them actually. I got them right here. This is Lucas's.
Shout out. Hell yeah, baby.
Got the hood.
Clean.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
Clean. Now, I will say that is not we have merchandise that people are probably like, oh, where can we get these? These are these are the like, I don't know how you describe it.
The company shirts, the uniforms.
Yeah, like the what do you call it? Like the when something comes out and they get like the like free trial or like the test run version.
Brother, I'm not gonna lie, I have no clue what you're saying.
Like it's like the prototype. Prototype.
Okay, there we go.
It's like see, I got you, Boone. See, I got you.
Yeah,
it's
like
the prototype.
I didn't know where you were going with that one. You were just like,
so, yeah, these are not available. These are for the boys tomorrow in Indy. So I can't wait for that one.
I'm hyped.
We'll get to mailbag though, because I think it's about time, right? It's 9:53. So we'll answer a couple questions here before we end the show. Here's the first one. It's Coach Walk. Mailbag. Are you guys doing a show tomorrow from the combine? We plan to. We're gonna try. I'll just say that.
We'll see how like the Wi-Fi and all that stuff works.
Yeah,
and if we can set up.
Out.
We're gonna do everything we can to do a show.
Control.
Yeah.
A lot of factors that are all out of our control, but we will.
We should do this. I'm gonna say this. Can I say this real quick? If we don't have a show and you guys notice there's not a show, what we'll do, and I'm just throwing this out there for you guys now, just brain working. Maybe we'll do like a Twitter Spaces or something at 8:00. If our show doesn't work, I think we're gonna do everything we can to do a live show, like with all of us there and everything. We're gonna do everything we can to do that. If the Wi-Fi and things don't work at the hotel and in Indy and we can't find a place to do it, then potentially we could just do a Twitter Spaces. So above is the official CT Pod. Go follow that at Booner Sports, and then these guys is as well. We'll probably all just go live and do that.
Booner, that was an elite process right there. I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. Twitter Space. Maybe
better than Caleb Williams.
Maybe we'll have Adam Badin join. No, don't go there.
I'm just asking.
I'm just asking.
I'm just asking. That was a great idea. All right, let's get to the next one. Answer 14 mailbag. Would you guys trade down to get 6 picks in the top 100 plus your 5th, 6th, 7th rounders?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I would trade. Talking about from 29, I think he means. I mean, if it depends who's there. I guess. I mean, I know it's a
Kamari Lassiter. You'll trade back, add 2 more picks. Kamari Lassiter.
I would just have to see who's there at 29.
I'm intrigued. Really Booner, you got me. Booner, you got me. You wrote. Yep. Yep. Now I'm on board. See, it's all it took. Big Con 51 mailbag. Lucas, what do you know about the safety out of the U? James Williams, 6'5", 215. Supposedly
man smacks people. I mean, he's like I don't know. He'll be like I don't even know if he's in the draft this year. I just remember watching him a couple times because he's a 6'5" safety from the U, and like he hits like he's playing in like the era from the U. He's just not the most athletic guy, but he definitely has all the intangibles. Got to get better ball skills, but he's an in the box safety that kills people, a lot of range. I don't hate him, but he's definitely
6'5". Oh my
yeah, he's a big body. I mean, there's some weaknesses to the game, but I definitely like him a lot.
Convert that.
There's not a lot to dislike.
Wide receiver.
Yeah, I'll say that's like Jack Campbell at safety, or it's like Panay Sewell at safety with like
linebacker.
He's huge.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. That's if he was in the NFL, they would probably move him to like I don't know. He's not Isaiah Simmons because Isaiah Simmons was super fast, but you know how Isaiah Simmons was a safety and now he's kind of like a linebacker now just because he's awkward as a position build. I think he's one of those guys.
A lot of those 6'5" guys, they don't have like a position. Like it's weird when they come in, you're like, I don't know, 6'5" safety. What do you do with him? I mean, maybe playing as a linebacker, but
I like him though.
Yeah, ETN Mailbag. Where would you rank Caleb Williams in terms of QB prospects in the last years? I mean, Joe Burrow was to me like the Trevor Lawrence and Joe out of from college
coming out. They were like, yes,
like generational. That type. I mean, I know Joe had
JJ McCarthy. I'm just kidding. I had to throw that one out there as a joke.
Jesus Christ. I'm watching James Williams highlights like right now because I saw it and I was just watching. He just kills people. He's just killing people. Like I was like, oh my God. Like if you're running in his cover 2 flat, it's a bad day for you. It's just a bad day.
Well, I know ETN just said that he's talking about the last 10 years. I mean, I guess that would be out of the range of Andrew Luck. So I mean, but I would say Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow.
Try to think of the. Remember how like people viewed Sam Darnold as like this perfect quarterback prospect? Your boy.
I mean, out of college, but he wasn't as accomplished in terms of like a Heisman winner.
USC. He was mid at USC as far as winning.
Okay.
Caleb Williams.
All right. You know what? Let's go on.
Caleb Williams did nothing at USC that Sam Darnold did not.
Okay. That's egregious. All right. Now you're passing. Nay. That's egregious. Hey, that was Colin Cowherd's guy, by the way. And then he didn't like him after he played bad.
Josh Rosen.
Oh, gosh.
Franchise changing pick, Josh Rosen. And you got him at 10.
Idiot.
Eduardo, that's my guy, Colin Cowherd, though. Anyway, Eduardo O'Neill, Mailbag. What are you willing to do to see Brad's top-rated players? What are we willing to do? I mean, what do you mean by that? I mean, to like see his big board? Like,
I think that's what he's saying.
You do want to see his big board, Jeff.
Do you want me to be honest? Do you want me to be honest?
Yeah, Booner's eager to answer this. I don't want to.
I don't want to do any. I don't want to see his. I want to surprise.
Yeah, it's like a birthday. It's like a birthday.
That's fair.
I would be disappointed. It's like if you went like on Christmas, if you looked at your presents before, which I've done, and it was a bad move. So like, don't do that.
Bad move.
I was a kid, and my brothers convinced me to go look for the Christmas gifts, and I found them, and I didn't get any Christmas gifts. Learned the hard way. But it's like doing that. It's like you don't like. I like you. You should like a bit of a surprise there. It's you should. You should want a surprise. Like I want to go into the draft night and us do our live show, and I want to be on air shocked. Like I want you guys to see our reaction.
Yeah,
I get that.
But imagine you had the shot. Imagine you had the Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 last year.
He called.
People are just, we don't even run. Jeff would have been on you for the value, taking a running back at number 12 overall. You're going to run him into the ground in 5 years, then he's going to be done. But you could have been that guy, Booner.
Booner, if you knew, you could place a bet, though.
That's true, but I would rather not win the money and just have the surprise. Like sometimes it's like, because like one of the good things about betting, it's like the thrill of like if it was always an automatic win, like I love the thrill, like that. I love it. It would be sweet to make a lot of money, but
yeah, I think I mean, I think you brought up that Christmas story as well. That first time, that's when Booner first time finding out Santa wasn't real. It like hit him deep. He's like, wait.
Well, hey, relax. We might have kids watching this show.
He doesn't know that yet.
He might have kids watching this show. Relax. We don't know the age group. I know we can check it in YouTube, but I think there were some. We might have kids.
Yeah, no, he's real. Oh yeah, he is.
He
is certainly. Yes, Mike's son might be watching actually, Jack.
Yeah,
so we got
imagine that.
Imagine
Imagine if Jeff ruined that. That would be crazy.
You'd have to explain to him. I'd be like, "Hey, Jeff, this is what you did."
I'd be like, "Hey, Jax, Uncle Jeff here." I don't know what I was thinking. Steve and David, Mailbag. Who are you most excited to see in Indy? I mean,
Dan Campbell.
Everyone.
You're talking about players. My bad.
Yeah, I would. If Joel Klatt was there, he's not. Louis Riddick for Lucas. No, I mean players, DBs, and probably, if I'm being honest, this is even like not saying I'm a huge fan of this player, but just to see him out there, JJ McCarthy. I want to see him.
Yeah.
I want to see him sling the rock.
Roman.
I want to see him. People about his arm, the arm. You know, he's the people calling him the best quarterback in the class. I want to.
He's throwing against air.
I'm a weird. I don't know. I like it.
I mean, Lucas, what are we going to the combine for if they're throwing against air? We're going to watch guys play against no one.
Xavier Legette,
Keon Coleman,
Keon
too.
Coleman.
Keon, that's a good one.
Lad McConkey. When Lad McConkey's going through the gauntlet,
they're catching against no one.
You know what they're doing though? He's gonna get
thing.
sent through they're gonna be doing the gauntlet. It's where they have like the 8 quarterbacks. You got to flip your hips and try to stay on the line. That's the drill where you see. That's the drill where Steve Smith was watching Cooper Kupp and was like, "It's the best wide receiver in this draft class." And we're gonna see Lad. I'm gonna tap you, Booner. Be like, watch.
Lucas,
it's the 3rd best wide receiver in this draft class.
Who's guarding them? Air?
Nobody. But the thing is,
so you don't want to see
what
them
you can
because
see
what you can
see with wide receivers running through that drill is their balance, their hands, their awareness, and with quarterbacks, all you're really seeing them do is just throw as far as they can.
I don't want to see anyone in the combine. I'm just excited to go hang out with the boys. That's basically what I'm saying.
The JJ McCarthy stuff.
No.
Yeah, well, honestly,
we would like to see
him, Lucas. Like
he's the top-rated quarterback throwing.
JJ's throwing. I'm gonna be sleeping.
I'm gonna be honest.
You're not allowed to watch.
When
JJ throws, you better turn around.
You gotta watch.
I'm
bringing a blindfold.
Booing at the cop.
I'll be booing him. He's gonna drop like a 70-yard dot in him. Yeah, I'll blow a whistle.
I don't know what it is, fellas. I just like watching it. I just like watching quarterbacks like that at that level just throw the football. It's just like
I'm with you on that, Jeff.
It's like I don't care who it is. Like even Michael Penix. Like I just want to watch guys. Just
I'd love to see Michael Penix throw.
You excited to watch Bo Nix shred the combine up?
I'm excited to see what Bo Nix does. He had a bad Senior Bowl. I'm excited to see what he does.
Bo Nix rip it. Oh gosh. All right. Well, there you have it. Stetson Bennett. Yeah, he was ripping it last year.
Why did you just bring that up?
What's going on here?
Oh, I'm dead. All right. That's a good cue to end here. We'll be tomorrow. Hey, you'll get all your NFL Combine content. Follow us on social media at official CT Pod. You got at official Crunch Time on TikTok. We'll be posting all content there. We'll be busy tomorrow. We're going to be your go-to for Combine content. We will be at least here locally. So keep an eye out. It'll be fun. The crew will be. I mean, if you're going there, if you see us, come say hi, man. We like meeting people. It's a lot of fun. So
the Zoom out's got to stop. We've got to cut that. That's got to be done.
What is the casting couch? What are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
It's Jeff Iafrate. We got Booner. The ball nowhere now, relaxing, a little too comfy, and then of course BMG with his glasses on. That's a bad man. That's a bad man right there, according to Gus Johnson. We'll catch you guys. Have a great Thursday.
Appreciate you guys. Love you guys.
And have a safe night. Deuces.